Chapter 202. Wang Daoxing had been at the peak of qi refinement for a few years, so his foundation was quite solid. After consolidating his cultivation for half a day, he walked out of the cave. He had broken through a major realm and upgraded his body refinement technique, so his qi and blood were almost exhausted. Although foundation establishment cultivators could fast, body refinement cultivators needed to eat a lot of food to replenish their qi and blood, so they usually couldn't fast. After leaving the cave, Wang Daoxing wanted to go to the Drunken Immortal restaurant to have a big meal. As the clan leader, Wang Shuyi naturally had to express his gratitude for the addition of a foundation establishment cultivator to the clan. He immediately said, "Since Daoyuan treated you last time, I'll treat you too to a big meal this time." As soon as the three of them entered the Drunken Immortal restaurant, they saw Zhao Liang still sitting in the corner, sneakily staring in the direction of the kitchen. Wang Daoyuan greeted him and went upstairs to the private room. As soon as the three of them entered the private room, a waiter came in. The waiter in the restaurant was a descendant of the clan who had just come of age and had come here to gain experience. This person was called Wang Daoxing. He was in his early 20s and was ranked 26th in the Dao generation. His cultivation talent was average and he didn't have any special skills in the 100 arts of cultivation. He came to the Drunken Immortal restaurant to gain experience for a few years and become a manager in the business hall. Wang Daoxing asked, "Clan leader, elders, what would you like to eat?" Wang Daoxing said, "We have all the dishes in the restaurant. No need to be polite with me. Anyway, it's 12th uncle's treat." Wang Daoxing smiled. "Alright, I'll go tell 8th sister now." Wang Daoyuan said, "Wait a minute, 26th brother, what's up with Zhao Liang? I've been here twice in the past few days, and both times I've seen him there, sneakily looking into the kitchen. Does he come here every day?" Wang Daoxing answered, "That sneaky fellow staring at the kitchen indeed comes every day." Wang Daoyuan was a bit puzzled. He asked, "That fellow is a refiner of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. What's a blacksmith doing in the kitchen?" Wang Daoxing stammered, "I don't dare to say it. Otherwise, 8th sister will teach me a lesson." Wang Daoyuan directly called Yun-Yi out of the spirit pearl space. Fortunately, the private room was big enough. Otherwise, it would not be able to accommodate Yun-Yi's fat body. He pointed at Yun-Yi and asked, "You are afraid that 8th sister will punish you? Aren't you afraid that Yun-Yi will play with you?" Hearing this, Yun-Yi even opened her mouth and licked her fangs that were more than a foot long. The 12th uncle also heard that something was going on here. He stretched out his right hand, and a 5-inch-long water dragon moved between his fingers. Wang Daoxing's eyes widened as his body emitted a golden light. Wang Daoxing was so scared that he broke out in a cold sweat. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, 26th brother, don't be afraid. With the 12th uncle and me supporting you, what are you afraid of? You don't have to be afraid of losing your job. I am now the punishment elder and the highest commander of Linji Mountain. As long as you are reliable and capable, it will not be a problem to arrange a position for you. Besides, it is against the clan's rules to hide something and not report it. This punishment elder is not a decoration. Under the coercion of the three people, Wang Daoxing could only confess. That person called Zhao Liang is here for 8th sister. Since more than a year ago, he has been running to the restaurant and shamelessly trying to get close to 8th sister. At first, 8th sister ignored him, but after a long time, 8th sister also has some feelings for Zhao Liang. After hearing this, Wang Shui waved his hand and said, "You can leave first. I will call you if there is anything." Wang Daoxing immediately rolled and crawled out of the private room. Wang Shui said, "The people from Divine Weapon Pavilion are definitely not here for the dishes of Drunken Immortal restaurant. They have always only done business and do not have much contact with the local forces. What does this kid mean?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "I have only gone to Divine Weapon Pavilion to buy a few artifacts and have interacted with Zhao Liang a few times. I do not know his specific situation. This matter is not easy to handle. Logically speaking, if 8th sister is interested in Zhao Liang, there is no need for us to break them up. A marriage between a disciple of Divine Weapon Pavilion and a local family is not in line with Divine Weapon Pavilion's principles. This matter may be Zhao Liang's own idea. His teacher does not know, so it is not good for us to directly express our opinion. Wang Shui nodded and said, yes, it is not appropriate for us to oppose this matter. It is also not appropriate for us to be too active. If Zhao Liang's teacher does not agree, it would seem that our Wang family is too shameless. Wang Daoxing said impatiently, you people are thinking too much. Just call 8th sister up and ask her. Don't you feel a headache thinking about it? Wang Shui smiled and said, that makes sense. What is the use of us frowning here? Let's ask Dao Shu for her opinion. After saying that, he sent a voice transmission to Wang Daoshu, asking her to come up. Before long, Wang Daoshu came to the private room. Wang Shui asked, Daoshu, it is more appropriate for 9th sister to ask you about this matter. But since I am here today, then I cannot ignore it. I also know a little about you and Zhao Liang's matter. If that kid is really interested in you, I naturally won't object. It's just that the Divine Weapon Pavilion has always only done business and does not have any other association with the local forces. Zhao Liang is a member of Divine Weapon Pavilion. If he wants to marry you, the resistance might be very great. She was so embarrassed that her face flushed red. She lowered her head and did not speak. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, 8th sister, since you are embarrassed to say, then go down first. Let's have a chat with Zhao Liang. Wang Daoshu withdrew. Wang Daoyuan sent a voice transmission to Zhao Liang, asking him to come up for a chat. Before long, Zhao Liang entered the private room and bowed to the three people. As an elder, it was not too appropriate for Wang Shui to speak first when facing Zhao Liang. Second brother was basically a blockhead in this aspect. He could only ask himself. Wang Daoyuan asked, Daoyu Zhao, I also know about the matter between you and my 8th sister. I think Daoyu Zhao is clearer than me about the rules of Divine Weapon Pavilion. I'm afraid your teacher still doesn't know about the matter between you and my 8th sister, right? I wonder how Daoyu plans to deal with this matter. Do you really want to marry 8th sister, or are you relying on the power of Divine Weapon Pavilion to cheat? If it's the former, then inform the seniors of Divine Weapon Pavilion as soon as possible. If the seniors of Divine Weapon Pavilion don't agree, then break it off early. Don't delay 8th sister. If it's the latter, although the Wang family is weak, it is not to be bullied by others. Zhao Liang was at a loss for words by Wang Daoyuan. After thinking for a long time, he replied, I naturally sincerely want to marry Dao Shu. It's just that I have not considered the rules of Divine Weapon Pavilion. Thank you senior for your guidance. I will go back and ask Master. If Master agrees, I will definitely marry her openly. If Master doesn't agree, I will definitely not pester her anymore. Finished speaking, he left the drunken Immortal Inn. Wang Shui sighed and said, this matter is really troublesome. If Zhao Liang's master doesn't agree, it's fine. If the two don't pester each other, it will be good for both sides. If he agrees, our Wang family will also be in a dilemma. If Dao Shu marries out, the business of drunken Immortal Inn will be affected, and that is a small matter. The main thing is the marriage with Divine Weapon Pavilion. There will be villains at Netherworld sect fanning the flames, saying that our Wang family is disloyal. At that time, our Wang family's days will not be easy. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, why think so much? Take one step at a time. Our Wang family has been wearing the Netherworld sect's shoes for more than 300 years. The more difficult days have passed, why are we still afraid of this? The matter of two Qi Refinement Juniors, Netherworld sect will not have too big of a reaction. Not long after, the wine and dishes were served. Wang Daoyuan and Wang Shui did not have much appetite. But Wang Daoxing's appetite was not affected at all, and he finished most of the dishes. Chapter 203. After the meal, Wang Shui and Wang Daoxing took the Flying Tiger back to Jade Spring Peak, while Wang Daoyuan stayed in Clear Glass City. As the clan leader, Wang Shui still had matters to attend to in the clan. Wang Daoxing had just reached foundation establishment and was in a hurry to cultivate the sword kinesis technique. Arrangements had been made at Linji Mountain, so it was not a big problem whether Wang Daoyuan went or not. Eighth sister and Zhao Liang's matter had to be handled by someone with enough authority. Only Wang Daoyuan had the least amount of time to spare. He might as well refine pills and make talismans in the cave abode in the backyard of the Alchemy Seal Pavilion and wait for news from Zhao Liang. This kid was not kind. He treated him as a friend, but he wanted to be his brother-in-law. After the conversation that day, Zhao Liang suddenly stopped and did not come to the Drunken Immortal Inn for several days. Eighth sister was a little worried that something had happened to Zhao Liang. Wang Daoyuan did not mind. If this matter was successful, it would bring a lot of trouble to the Wang family. He could not see the benefits for the time being. After all, Zhao Liang was only a Qi refinement cultivator and an inferior grade Tier 2 weapon refiner. A person's words carried little weight, and it did not affect the decisions of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Therefore, his attitude was that it was best if it failed. The Wang family had always been very humane. As long as it was not betraying the family's interests, everything was negotiable. Since eighth sister had been tricked by Zhao Liang, this shameless guy, the Wang family would not object. Even if she got married, as long as she did not reveal some of the Wang family's secrets and did not do anything that harmed the family's interests, it did not matter. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. Zhao Liang did not come again. Wang Daoyuan was very glad. It seemed that this matter had failed. Just as Wang Daoyuan was about to leave Clear Glass City and continue to bully the demon beasts at Linji Mountain, a huge pressure descended from the sky. Wang Daoyuan immediately flew up on his sword and saw an old man with a white beard and white hair standing on an auspicious cloud above the Drunken Immortal Inn. There was another person standing behind the old man. It was Zhao Liang. Even Zifu disciples would have to fly through the air on magic treasures. However, the senior in front of him was directly riding a cloud in the air. Only a golden core cultivator could do that. Wang Daoyuan had never seen a living golden core cultivator before, but the golden core cultivator in front of him looked a little unbearable. His hair bun was crooked, and there was a lot of messy hair around it. His beard seemed to have been shaved off by someone with a sword, but only half of it had been shaved off. Half of his beard was longer than the other half. His clothes were a bit messy and torn in many places, as if he had just gone through a great battle. No matter how unsightly his image was, he was still a golden core cultivator, an existence that could wipe out the Wang clan with a wave of his hand. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to be negligent. He immediately bowed and said, "Junior Wang Daoyuan of the Jade Spring Wang family welcomes Senior." The Jindan cultivator glanced at him and asked, "You were the one who forced my disciple, Zhao Liang?" Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was shocked. This brat Zhao Liang actually had a golden core master, and he even came to denounce him. Just as he was about to refute, another person flew over on a sword. It was Yang Yong. Yang Yong flew in front of the three people and cupped his hands towards the golden core cultivator. "Junior Yang Yong, the guardian of Clear Glass City, greets Senior. My Netherworld sect and Divine Weapon Pavilion have an agreement. Divine Weapon Pavilion is not allowed to casually make a move in Netherworld sect's territory. Senior, please don't break the rules." The golden core cultivator glanced at Yang Yong and said, "I don't need you to remind me. Besides, I don't have the intention to kill this brat. I'm here to propose marriage." "Alright, don't stand in the sky and make a joke out of yourself. Wang Daoyuan immediately landed in front of the drunken Immortal Inn and cupped his hands towards the sky. Senior, please come in for a chat. The Golden Core Cultivator and Yang Yong both landed in front of the drunken Immortal Inn. Yang Yong saw that the person who came wasn't looking for trouble, so he didn't follow and turned to leave. Wang Daoyuan brought the Golden Core Cultivator and Zhao Liang into a private room and invited them to sit down. He cupped his hands and asked, Senior, may I ask if Zhao Daoyu is your descendant by blood? The Golden Core Cultivator didn't understand and replied, no. Wang Daoyuan's expression changed slightly and turned to ask Zhao Liang, may I ask if Zhao Daoyu is related to the previous dynasty's imperial family? Zhao Liang looked around, not knowing if he should say or not. The Golden Core Cultivator said, just say it. With me here, no one will dare to eavesdrop. Zhao Liang sighed and said, I won't hide it from Daoyu. I'm the Lai Emperor's great-grandson. My grandfather is the Lai Emperor's eldest son. The Golden Core Cultivator was curious and asked Wang Daoyuan, you're quite smart. How did you guess? Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, Senior, please don't take offense if there's anything wrong with what I said. This Daoyu Zhao has 3 types of spiritual energy fluctuations on his body. He's at least a cultivator with 3 spiritual roots. He's about the same age as me and has a famous teacher to guide him, but he's only a second-grade weapon refiner. Whether it's his cultivation talent or weapon refinement talent, he can't be considered outstanding. Senior, you're a Golden Core Cultivator, but you've personally come to propose marriage for Daoyu Zhao. With Zhao Daoyu's talent, he's not worthy of your attention. Daoyu Zhao isn't your blood relative. The reason why he's able to become your disciple and be valued so highly by you is very likely because of a favor. To be able to make a Golden Core Cultivator owe him a favor and have the surname Zhao, I'll make a bold guess that Daoyu Zhao is related to the previous dynasty's imperial family. The Golden Core Cultivator stroked his beard and said, Good lad, you're quite clever. You can even guess this. I do indeed owe his elders a favor, which is why I took him in. However, you're quite boastful, little lad. Although this disciple of mine isn't very talented, he's already a second-grade weapon refiner in his 40s. You're looking down on his achievements. I wonder how are your weapon refinement skills? Wang Daoyuan smiled apologetically. I don't know much about the Tao of weapon refinement. I've only cultivated elixir, talisman and formation. Right now, I'm only at second-grade elixir and talisman. My formation skills are slightly weaker at second-grade elixir and talisman. The Golden Core Cultivator was speechless for a long time. After pondering for a long time, he said, I'm an honest man. You're too scheming and not to my liking. Otherwise, with your talent, I'll definitely take you in as my disciple no matter what. On account of your extraordinary talent, I'll give you some pointers. Since you've cultivated elixir, talisman and formation, you should have realized that runes and formation patterns are similar. At the peak of the Tao of elixir refinement, there are also elixir patterns that are similar to runes and formation patterns. In the ancient times, it was said that one would be able to peek into the Tao after mastering all 4 Taos. Since he had already learned all 3, he wouldn't be lacking in weapon refinement. The art of weapon refinement is mainly divided into 3 parts: refining materials, forging and inscribing. Refining materials is similar to extracting the essence of elixirs. Since you know how to refine elixirs, this shouldn't be a problem for you. Forging and forming is a painstaking job without any tricks and can only be done through practice. The most important thing is inscribing. Since you're proficient in talisman and formation patterns, this shouldn't be a problem for you. As long as you're willing to put in the effort to learn weapon refinement, you should be able to achieve quite a bit. I've lived for 800 years and have seen many people with decent talent in the 4 Taos. However, none of them had the energy to be proficient in all 4 Taos. Yet, You're able to have such high attainments in all three Daos at such a young age without affecting your cultivation. You can give it a try. I also want to see if the ancient rumors are credible. I'm here today to propose a marriage for my good-for-nothing disciple. I wonder if the Wang family is willing to become in-laws with me? Wang Daoyuan stood up and cupped his fists. Please forgive me, senior. I dare not agree. Chapter 204. The Golden Core cultivator slammed the table and said angrily, "What? Is your Wang family looking down on me? Not to mention you, even if your ancestor was still alive, he would still have to give this old man some face. I am a Golden Core cultivator, and Zhao Liang is my disciple. Master and disciple are like father and son. Is my direct disciple not worthy of your Wang family's girl?" Wang Daoyuan felt a lingering fear. Fortunately, the family box had a soundproof array. Otherwise, if he continued shouting like this, nothing could be kept secret. He hurriedly apologized. Since the Wang family's ancestor passed away, they have been struggling at death's door under the wings of the Netherworld sect. Even rogue cultivators don't dare to slight them, not to mention Zhao Daoyu is a Golden Core direct disciple. It's just that the Wang family is under the protection of the Netherworld sect. If the marriage alliance with the Zhao royal family is leaked, the Wang family will be exterminated. Moreover, the seniors of the Divine Weapon Pavilion will not agree to the marriage alliance with the Wang family. Even if Daoyu's identity is not exposed, the Wang family will be suppressed by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. For the lives of dozens of cultivators and hundreds of thousands of ordinary family members, Junior does not dare to agree to Senior's request. The Golden Core cultivator sighed and said, "Disciple, it's not easy for you to get a wife." Wang Daoyuan thought for a while and said, "If Daoyu insists on marrying, the Wang family will not dare to refuse. But to protect the clan, they can only expel 8th sister from the family." After that, 8th sister changed her name and has nothing to do with the Wang family. The Golden Core cultivator said angrily, "Nonsense, I, Lei Yen Jinren, have lived for 800 years. Some people say I am unreasonable, pestering endlessly, and a fool, but no one said I bully the weak. For the sake of my disciple's marriage, I can't do something like forcibly breaking up a family. Isn't it just the Netherworld sect? I just beat up a few old fools of the Divine Weapon Pavilion, I don't care about beating up a few more. I'd like to see how long those wandering souls of the Netherworld sect can last under my thunder technique." Wang Daoyuan sent a voice transmission to Ba Mei to come over. After a while, Ba Mei entered the private room. Wang Daoyuan asked, "8th sister, this Zhao Daoyu is a direct descendant of the former Emperor Lai. If you marry him, your family will be suppressed by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Once Zhao Daoyu's identity was exposed, the Netherworld sect might exterminate him. If you're willing to marry him, the family won't stop you. However, for the survival of the clan, I can only expel you from the Wang clan. From now on, you will no longer have anything to do with the Wang clan. You are also not allowed to have any contact with the people of the Wang clan. Are you willing?" Hearing this, Wang Daoshu's tears gushed out. After crying for a long time, she finally said, "I can't bear to leave my parents, but I also can't bear to leave Zhao Liang. In order to not make things difficult for the family, I am willing to leave the family and never contact them again." At this moment, Zhao Liang's eyes were also filled with tears. He cried and said, "No need. Since I can remember, the people around me died one by one in order to protect me. Because of the title of the great-grandson of the Lai Emperor, my grandfather and father hid in the mountains for 300 years, not daring to show their faces. Even so, they were still hunted down by the 3 major sections. The people who followed my grandfather were killed one after another. Until I was 10 years old, Grandpa Zhao Zhong, who had brought me up, also died. Before he died, he entrusted me to master and used his own grandson to die in my place. If not for Master's protection, I wouldn't have lived until now. Because of my marriage, Master also beat up a few Jindan stage elders of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Now, he also forced Dao Shu to cut ties with her family. Other than Master and Dao Shu, I have nothing. Only the four of us know my identity. Outsiders all think that I'm dead. The title of Lai Emperor's direct descendant is useless to me. After saying this, he knelt on the ground and kowtowed to Lei Yanjinren, saying, Master has already done too much for me. I don't want Master to risk his life for me. I've decided to change my name, leave the Divine Weapon Pavilion, and marry into the Wang family. I've failed Master's teachings and betrayed the sect, smearing Master's face. Lei Yanjinren sighed, saying, Forget it. Since you've made your decision, Master won't stop you. As long as you have a place to go, this old man's debt to your grandfather can be considered repaid. Although you marrying into the Wang family is a loss of face, this old man doesn't care. I can't even decide for my own disciple's marriage. I've already lost all my face. Just leave the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Since we're master and disciple, I won't expel you. Lei Yanjinren paused for a moment, then turned to Wang Daoyuan, saying, In the future, if someone makes trouble for the Wang family because of Zhao Liang's identity, as long as this old man is still alive, I'll definitely stand up for the Wang family. Are you satisfied now? Wang Daoyuan replied, Junior naturally has no objections. It's just that this matter is of great importance and I don't dare to make a decision on my own. I need to report to the Patriarch and let him decide. Lei Yanjinren snorted, saying, He's also not a straightforward person. You go and discuss it. I'll stay in the Drunken Immortal Inn for a few days. Zhao Liang praised this girl's culinary skills to the heavens. This old man also wants to taste my disciple's wife's culinary skills. Wang Daoyuan immediately rode Yunyi back to the Jade Spring Peak and reported this matter to Patriarch Wang Shui. Wang Shui pondered for a long time and said, There's no harm in agreeing. Including me, only 5 people know Zhao Liang's true identity. The Netherworld sect thinks that he's already dead. As long as we don't speak of this matter, there's no possibility of it being exposed in a short period of time. Furthermore, Lei Yanjinren can still protect the Wang family for 200 years. Whether or not the Netherworld sect can hold on for another 200 years is another matter. 200 years is enough for us to move the family's foundation to the 5 Elements Mystery Realm. At that time, why would we be afraid of the Netherworld sect? No matter what, Zhao Liang is still a second-rank weapon refiner. If he marries into our Wang family, he can at least bring us the legacy of weapon refinement. Our Wang family won't lose Dao Shu, this chef. Since I've agreed to this matter, I'll leave it to you to handle. After receiving the order, Wang Daoyuan informed the Grand Elder. The arrangements for the wedding had to be approved by the Grand Elder. Thereafter, he rode Yunyi once more and headed to Clear Glass City. When he arrived at the Drunken Immortal Inn, the golden core was still in his original private room. However, he was feasting and there were dozens of empty plates on the table. His hands were greasy and even his beard was stained with meat. He did not have the image of a senior expert at all. When he saw Wang Daoyuan staring at him, Lei Yanjinren said nonchalantly, I'm a dual body and energy cultivator and can be considered half a body tempering cultivator. Body tempering cultivators don't need to abstain from eating, so what's wrong with eating more? Wang Daoyuan hurriedly apologized, Please forgive me, senior. I thought that senior experts don't eat and lost my composure for a moment. Please forgive me. Also, the Patriarch has already agreed to this marriage and ordered me to handle it. The golden core pulled the tablecloth and wiped his hands and mouth, saying, Your Patriarch is much more straightforward than you. Then, I'll wait here for you to send someone to welcome my disciple into the family. Since my disciple has already decided to leave the Divine Weapon Pavilion, it's not appropriate to hold the wedding at the branch of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Let's decorate this restaurant and let him get on the sedan chair here." With that, he looked at Yun-Yi outside the door and asked, "If I'm not wrong, that fat and shapeless mount of yours should be Yun-Yi Tiger, right?" Chapter 205. Wang Daoyuan replied, "It is indeed a Yun-Yi tiger, but I fed it too much and made it too fat." Daoist Lei Yen stroked his beard and smiled, "Little friend, you are quite lucky. Although I don't know how to tame beasts, I have a few old friends who do. According to them, this Yun-Yi tiger is the only second-rank land beast that can fly, and it seems to be quite extraordinary. Moreover, Yun-Yi tigers are extremely rare, even those old friends of mine have never raised one. It's just that the ancient legends say that Yun-Yi tigers are a mutated species, but it doesn't say what's so special about them. Little friend, since you are so lucky to get a Yun-Yi tiger, you must raise it well." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands, "I will follow senior's teachings." Daoist Lei Yen waved his hand, "My disciple will marry into the Wang family, so we are one family, no need to be so reserved. I don't care about how the wedding is going to be arranged, just follow the Wang family's rules. There is no need for betrothal gifts, I don't care about that. What I care about, your Wang family can't take out. I feel that the food in your Wang family's restaurant is not bad, I will eat a few meals here, consider it as a betrothal gift." Wang Daoyuan bid farewell and left to prepare for the wedding. Of course, there weren't many things that he needed to prepare. These things were naturally arranged by the elders in the family, there was no need for a foundation establishment cultivator like him to take care of these things. 7 days later, all the preparations were completed. Wang Daoyuan went to ask Daoist Lei Yen when to welcome the bride. When he saw Daoist Lei Yen, he found that he was refining food, he had eaten too much. A Jindan true acknowledgement was actually the same as Wang Daoxing, probably all body refiners were like this. Seeing Wang Daoyuan come, Daoist Lei Yen asked, "Have you arranged everything?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "All the preparations have been completed, I only ask senior to set a date." Daoist Lei Yen burped, "I have heard that the Wang family's rules are a bit like those of a mortal family. I don't have that many rules. Since I'm ready, I can come and pick you up tomorrow. It's up to you how you want to do it. Just have the 2 newcomers toast to me." After Wang Daoyuan received Daoist Lei Yan's approval, he immediately returned to report the news and prepare for the wedding the next day. Early the next morning, everyone from the Wang family set off from Jade Spring Peak, heading towards Clear Glass Market to escort the bride. The distance between Jade Spring Peak and Clear Glass Market was more than 2,000 li. Ordinary clansmen were unable to fly, so a round trip would probably take 2 to 3 days. It would take too much time. Therefore, Wang Daoyuan added some accessories for Yun-Yi. He carried a large red palanquin on his back and pulled a boat that was 50 feet long and 10 feet wide behind him. Wang Daoyuan inscribed a floating array formation on the ship. Although Wang Daoyuan's current level of array formation was not enough to inscribe a floating array formation and a propulsion array formation on a boat at the same time. However, inscribing only one array formation was not a big problem. The propulsion array formation could be replaced by Yun-Yi. Yun-Yi was not very willing to hang so many things. Only when Wang Daoyuan promised to give it double the roasted meat did it reluctantly agree. Wang Daoyuan led the way on his sword, while Yun-Yi followed behind. 8th sister, Wang Daoshu, was wearing a phoenix coronet and a robe. She sat in the palanquin on the back of a tiger. The wedding procession sat on the boat behind Yun-Yi. After an hour, they arrived at the top of the Drunken Immortal Inn. Yun-Yi landed in front of the Drunken Immortal Inn, and the wedding procession behind her got off the boat. Wang Daoyuan played the role of a matchmaker and went upstairs to greet them first. 12th sister, Wang Daoxian, helped Wang Daoshu down from the palanquin and accompanied her into the Drunken Immortal Inn. Wang Daoyin also followed behind to welcome the groom. At this time, Zhao Liang was also wearing a wedding robe. Seeing Wang Daoshu come in, Daoist Lei Yan nodded in satisfaction. When Wang Daoyin came in, Daoist Lei Yan's face immediately changed. Wang Daoyuan's heart also sank. He did not know what happened to Daoist Lei Yan. He hurriedly asked, "Is there something wrong in front?" Daoist Lei Yan walked towards Wang Daoyuan. Wang Daoyuan immediately stood in front of him and said with a smile, "My younger brother is young and ignorant. If there is anything wrong, please forgive him." Daoist Lei Yan's divine sense directly probed Wang Daoyin. Then, a gust of wind blew and pulled Wang Daoyin over. Daoist Lei Yan put his hand on Wang Daoyin's wrist and pondered for a moment. He asked, "Is your younger brother's appetite especially big? He digests spiritual items very quickly and his cultivation speed can't increase?" Wang Daoyuan hurriedly answered, "It is as Senior said. My younger brother has been like this since he was young. Before he started cultivating, he could eat 2.5 kilograms of spiritual grains. The spiritual energy he cultivated and the spiritual energy he ate would be automatically absorbed by his body, causing his cultivation speed to slow down. Senior, do you know the reason for this?" Daoist Lei Yan stroked his beard and laughed, "This is my best successor. It just so happens that I also have this physique. I have been searching for a successor for hundreds of years and have seen many geniuses with thunder spiritual roots. However, those with thunder attribute physiques are few and far between. Those with the same physique as mine are even rarer. Before this, I only met a junior with the same physique as mine. However, because he lacked a cultivation method when he was young and did not have enough resources to nourish his body, his special physique was crippled. I originally thought that I would not be able to find a suitable successor in this lifetime. Who would have thought that I would meet him here? This kid is really lucky to have a genius like you as his elder brother. He doesn't lack cultivation resources. Although he doesn't have a suitable cultivation method, he has enough resources. His physique is not crippled. Kid, are you willing to take me as your master?" Wang Daoyin was at a loss. He looked at Wang Daoyuan and asked for his opinion. Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "What are you standing there for? To be able to take me as your master is the fortune of 8 lifetimes." When Wang Daoyin heard this, he immediately wanted to kowtow. Daoist Lei Yan quickly supported Wang Daoyin and said, "Kid, you are an honest person. You are not like your elder brother who is full of tricks. However, I cannot accept a disciple so casually. I intend to let you be my successor. When a golden core Daoist accepts a successor disciple, there must be a ceremony. I will accept you as my disciple first. After your senior brother Zhao Liang's wedding, we will formally take you as my disciple. As for the wedding, you can continue." Zhao Liang brought Wang Daoshu and toasted Daoist Lei Yan, thanking him for his nurturing and teaching. Afterwards, Wang Daoyin led the way. Everyone left the drunken Immortal Inn. Zhao Liang and Wang Daoshu sat in the bridal sedan on Yunyi's back. Wang Daoyuan continued to lead the way in front. Yunyi brought the bridal sedan and boat and followed closely behind. Daoist Lei Yan also followed behind on a cloud. The group soon arrived at the Jade Spring Peak. Everyone in the Wang family came out to welcome the arrival of a golden core Daoist. Daoist Lei Yan waved his hand and said, "No need to be so formal. This old man and the Wang family can be considered relatives. Just do what you want to do with the wedding. Don't worry about me." The wedding went on as usual. The newlyweds came to the north bank of the Jade Dragon Spring and bowed. Wang Daoshu's parents were also mortals of the family. But since their daughter was getting married, they naturally had to come. Daoist Lei Yan and Wang Daoshu's parents sat together on the main seat and received the newlyweds' worship. The wedding of an ordinary member of a cultivation family was usually celebrated within the family. No other guests were invited. After the ceremony, the newlyweds entered the bridal chamber. The others continued to eat and drink. The decorations on the Jade Spring Peak did not need to be removed. They only needed to be slightly changed for Wang Daoyin's apprenticeship ceremony a few days later. Chapter 206. On the second day after the wedding, Wang Daoyuan asked Perfected Lei Yan, "Senior, my younger brother wants to be your disciple. The elders in my family would like to invite families with good relations to participate in the ceremony. What do you think?" Perfected Lei Yan said, "After I return to the Divine Weapon Pavilion, I still have to hold the ceremony. You guys can do whatever you want, I won't interfere. I'll just show my face at that time." With Perfected Lei Yan's words, the Wang family started to prepare for the ceremony. When a golden core perfected cultivator accepted a disciple, they usually only held one ceremony. There were a few like Wang Daoyin and Perfected Lei Yan, whose master and disciple belonged to different factions, so they each held a ceremony. The main character of the ceremony was Wang Daoyin, and the organizer was the Wang family. The gifts were also from the Wang family. The main character of the ceremony was Perfected Lei Yan, and the organizer was the Divine Weapon Pavilion. When Perfected Lei Yan agreed to show his face, the Wang family quickly sent out invitations to their friendly families. The Yang family was naturally on the list of invitations, including the Li family and a few other families in Heian County. The Wang family also sent out invitations. Considering that some families were further away, the ceremony was scheduled half a month later. Wang Daoyuan even rode Yunyi back to Qingxi village to pick up his parents. In the cultivation world, the relationship between master and disciple was very important. There was a saying, "Seeking a master is like reincarnation." Acknowledging a master was more important than marriage. If one's parents were still alive, they had to be present. Half a month passed quickly, and the day of the ceremony arrived. Perfected Lei Yan was from the same generation as the Wang family's patriarch, and he was also a Golden Core elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. The Divine Weapon Pavilion was one of the top factions in Beiyuan Xiuxian. It was not something that the Netherworld sect, which only occupied a third of Zhao, could compare to. Therefore, the invited families would definitely not let go of this opportunity to get close to the Divine Weapon Pavilion's Golden Core elder. Under such circumstances, the people who came to congratulate the families should be the oldest in the family. The people who received them could not be too low in seniority. Fifth great-uncle and eighth great-uncle respectively received the foundation establishment cultivators above and below 100 years old. The first guest who came to congratulate them was a bit more important. The person who came was precisely the Yang family's ancestor, Yang Yong. Wang Daoyuan and Wang Daoyin were both his direct descendants. When Yang Yong arrived, there was no one in the Wang family who was of the same seniority as him. Only fifth great-uncle Wang Jian could personally welcome him. Wang Jian welcomed Yang Yong into the auditorium. Wang Daoyuan's family of four bowed to him. Yang Yong looked at Wang Daoyin and smiled. "I didn't think that there would be such a talented person among this old man's descendants, to be able to catch the eye of Venerable Lei Yan." After saying that, he said to Wang Yang with regret, "Back then, it was such a pity to marry you to the Wang family instead of letting the Wang family members marry into the family. Otherwise, the brothers Daoyuan and Daoyin would be members of my Yang family." After he finished speaking, he walked straight to the main seat of the auditorium and bowed to Daoist Lei Yan, who was sitting high above. Adept Thunderflame didn't have a good impression of the underworld school, and Yang Yong was a Zifu disciple. There was no need for him to reply, so he simply nodded. Wang Daoyuan led Yang Yong to his grandfather. These cultivators with higher seniority were all received by the Wang clan's most senior grandfather. Soon after, the various clans in the Yang family's camp arrived to congratulate them. Furthermore, those who came to congratulate them were all the most senior members of their respective clans. Li Xinghe also brought a few Foundation establishment cultivators from the River Sun County to congratulate them. The clans that the Wang clan sent out invitations to send people over. Just as Patriarch Wang Shui was about to announce the start of the ceremony, a black cloud quickly floated over from the west. As the black cloud got closer, an aura that far exceeded that of a Zifu disciple was emitted from the black cloud. This was the arrival of a golden core cultivator. Before Wang Xian could speak, a hearty laughter sounded from the cloud. Lei Yan, Dao Yu has arrived in Clearglass County. I hope that you can forgive me for not being a good host. This was the arrival of a golden core cultivator from the underworld school. Aside from Daoist Lei Yan, everyone in the auditorium went out to receive him. The black cloud slowly descended and a man in his 20s appeared in front of everyone. Everyone in the Wang clan didn't know how to address him. Yang Yong bowed, "Greetings, sect master." Everyone outside the auditorium also bowed, "Greetings, sect master." This person was one of the three great experts in the Zhao country, the sect master of the underworld school, Luo Jiuyo. Luo Jiuyo was over 8 feet tall and had a handsome appearance. It wasn't the feminine kind of handsomeness, but masculinity. Who would have thought that the underworld school, a sect that played with corpses, would have such a masculine person as their leader? It was easier to accept that he was the leader of the Savage Sun Palace. Luo Jiuyo excused himself and took out a gift box. He placed it at the entrance of the auditorium and walked into the auditorium. Even if the underworld school couldn't be compared to the Divine Weapon Pavilion, Luo Jiuyo was still a golden core cultivator. Daoist Lei Yan also stood up and greeted Luo Jiuyo. Luo Jiuyo smiled, "Congratulations to Dao Yu Lei Yan for finding a successor. The Wang clan is a subsidiary clan of my underworld school. Little friend Wang Daoyin can also be considered a member of my underworld school. Now that he has joined Dao Yu Lei Yan's sect, it can be considered as a proof of the friendly relationship between the underworld school and the Divine Weapon Pavilion." He then encouraged Wang Daoyin, "Little friend Daoyin, after joining the Divine Weapon Pavilion, you have to put in more effort for the harmony between the two clans." Although Wang Daoyin had been with his second brother Wang Daoxing for a long time, he was a bit rash. But with Wang Daoyuan's influence, he wasn't a pure brute. He bowed, "Neither servile nor overbearing, I will follow senior's teachings." Daoist Lei Yan was very satisfied with Wang Daoyin's performance. Luo Jiuyo looked at Wang Daoyuan's parents. A mortal couple can give birth to 2 cultivators, one with peerless talent and the other has already reached foundation establishment. It's really not easy. Both of you are mortals, so you have no use for the things of cultivators. I will reward you with 20 life extension pills. Life extension pills can extend the lifespan of cultivators and mortals, but it is only useful for those who have been seriously injured and whose foundation has been damaged. The upper limit of one's lifespan is fixed. Apart from increasing one's cultivation, no other means can make one's lifespan exceed the upper limit. Wang Fu and Wang Yangshi are both mortals. When have they ever seen such a scene? They were so scared that they didn't dare to speak. Wang Daoyuan bowed, "Thank you sect master for the reward." Junior's parents have been in the countryside for a long time and have never seen the power of a Jindan master. They dare not speak. I hope sect master can forgive them. Wang Daoyuan's answer was appropriate. Luo Jiuyo nodded in satisfaction. He exchanged a few more words with Daoist Lei Yan, then used the excuse of being busy with the sect's affairs and left. Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, "Looks like the underworld school situation isn't too good." Otherwise, the underworld school's sect master wouldn't have come personally to express goodwill to Daoist Lei Yan. In the whole of Beiyuan Shuxian, about half of the level 3 magic weapons were made by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. More than 70% of the level 4 magic weapons were made by the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Luo Jiuyo fawned over the Divine Weapon Pavilion because he wanted to get support from the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Of course, it was impossible to expect the Divine Weapon Pavilion to intervene in the battle between the three major sects of Zhao. However, the Divine Weapon Pavilion could sell more Level 3 and Level 4 magic weapons, which would be of great benefit to the Underworld School. Luo Jiuyo left, and the apprenticeship ceremony officially began. First, Wang Daoyin kowtowed to his parents for raising him, and to the patriarch for nurturing him. Then, Zhao Liang, as Daoist Lei Yan's disciple and Wang Daoyin's senior brother, praised Wang Daoyin and thanked the Wang family for nurturing such an outstanding disciple on behalf of his master. Finally, Wang Daoyin offered tea to Daoist Lei Yan and performed the apprenticeship ceremony. Daoist Lei Yan accepted the ceremony, indicating that he recognized this disciple. The host of this apprenticeship ceremony was the Wang family, so it wasn't too formal. Many important ceremonies, such as the apprenticeship invitation, were only held when the apprenticeship ceremony was held. After the apprenticeship ceremony ended, Daoist Lei Yan praised Wang Daoyin. He also invited everyone present to attend the apprenticeship ceremony at the Divine Weapon Pavilion in the future. Then, Daoist Lei Yan left the hall. The cultivators present weren't fools, and they all knew that these were just polite words. Even Zifu realm cultivators weren't qualified to attend the apprenticeship ceremony at the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Only Golden Core cultivators could receive an invitation. Chapter 207. With the presence of a Golden Core cultivator, the others didn't dare to stay for long. After the banquet, they all dispersed. According to the family rules, Wang Daoyuan's parents gave birth to a foundation establishment cultivator and had the right to enter the family's ancestral temple, receive incense from the future generations, and also have the right to live in the family's spiritual mountain. However, the two of them were used to living in Qingxi village and didn't want to leave their children and grandchildren in Qingxi village, so they didn't want to stay in Yuchuan mountain. The two of them went to the ancestral temple and offered incense to the old ancestor before being sent back to Qingxi village by Wang Daoyuan. For the next few days, Daoist Lei Yan temporarily stayed in the auditorium under the pretext of giving Wang Daoyin time to say goodbye to his family. In reality, it was just to eat a few more meals of the Wang family's delicacies. Most of the Wang family's dishes were recreated by Wang Daoyuan based on the delicacies of his previous life. Although, Wang Daoyuan had only heard of many of the dishes. But in the space of the spiritual pearl, there was plenty of time for his clone to experiment and find the best ratio of fire and seasoning. So far, the Wang family had a total of over 100 dishes, all of which were unheard of outside. Although there was also the path of spiritual cooking in Beiyuan Xiuxian, it wasn't valued and there was no systematic inheritance. Therefore, there weren't many fresh dishes in Beiyuan Xiuxian, and they couldn't be compared to the food of the Empire of Gluttons in his previous life. Body refinement cultivators were all gluttons, and they wouldn't be willing to leave until they were tired of these 100 dishes. Wang Daoyuan also took out the dishes that he hadn't passed down to his clansmen from time to time for Daoist Lei Yan to taste. After staying in the Wang family for nearly a month, Daoist Lei Yan felt embarrassed and wanted to leave. However, when he thought of Wang Daoyuan raising Wang Daoyin, this glutton, for nearly 40 years, he felt that he had paid too much. And he had been eating and drinking for free for so long, so it wasn't appropriate for him to just leave. Therefore, Daoist Lei Yan said to Wang Daoyuan, "It wasn't easy for you to raise Daoyin and preserve his physique for so many years. You also taught him the basics of refining, which saved him a lot of effort. I feel a bit sorry for taking him away. What kind of compensation do you want? As long as I can do it, I won't refuse." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "It's only right that I raise my younger brother. If Daoyin hadn't met you, he wouldn't have been able to display the advantages of his physique. For you to accept him as your disciple is his fortune and also the glory of our Wang clan. He doesn't need any compensation." Perfected Lei Yan pretended to be angry. "I'm a Golden Core elder of the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Since I've already said it, there's no reason for me to take it back. There were only two things that the Wang clan urgently needed. One was a flying boat for transporting goods, and the other was a supplementary spirit item for establishing the Purple Mansion. There were two types of supplementary spiritual items that had the best effects in establishing the Purple Palace. One was the Yin-Yang Purple Jade, and the other was the Purple Cloudwood Core. In order to open the Violet Palace, a cultivator had to open the Guanyuan acupoint, which was the lower Dantian, and connect it to the Sea of Consciousness. Then, he extracted the pure Yin Qi from the soul and the pure Yang Qi from the body. The combination of Yin and Yang Qi would produce Purple Qi, which would be used to condense the Purple Palace in the Sea of Consciousness. When the soul entered the Purple Palace would nourish the soul, and the soul would turn into the Divine Soul. If the pure Yin Qi and pure Yang Qi were insufficient, the Purple Qi produced would not be enough to condense the Purple Palace. Then, the breakthrough would fail, and the soul and body would be severely damaged. Of course, this damage was not unrecoverable, but it would take decades to fully recover. The lifespan of a foundation establishment cultivator was only 240 years. How many decades could they waste? Therefore, they needed the assistance of external items that could provide Purple Qi. In the cultivation world, the Yin-Yang Purple Jade and the Purple Cloudwood Core are the only spiritual items that could be produced stably and contained a large amount of Purple Qi. The Yin-Yang Purple Jade was born at the intersection of Yin and Yang underground, and it could only be born when Yin and Yang were in balance. Ordinary jade was nourished by Yin and Yang Qi, and when both Yin and Yang Qi reached a balance in the jade, there would be a chance for a strand of Purple Qi to be born. After thousands or even tens of thousands of years of accumulation, the Yin-Yang Purple Jade would be formed. The conditions for the formation of the Purple Cloudwood Core were also very harsh. First, it needed a third-grade spiritual wood, the Purple Cloud Wood. The Purple Cloud Wood had the characteristic of absorbing Purple Qi. It absorbed the Purple Qi in the world and stored it. After countless years of accumulation, it would form the Purple Cloudwood Core, which was similar to a demonic beast's monster core. The Purple Qi in the world referred to the Purple Qi produced when the sun rose in the morning and the sun and moon intersected, coincidentally reaching a balance between Yin and Yang. At this moment, a lot of Purple Qi was produced and spread throughout the world, but it would dissipate in an instant. Although most cultivators would meditate and cultivate at this moment and absorb the Purple Qi at this moment, the amount absorbed was very small. The Purple Cloud Wood absorbed the Purple Qi at this moment, stored it, and accumulated it over time to form the Purple Cloudwood Core. A Purple Cloud Wood could not form a Purple Cloudwood Core without tens of thousands of years of accumulation. Even if a Purple Cloud Wood was found and transplanted into the space of the spiritual pearl, it would not be able to form a Purple Cloudwood Core. This was because the spiritual pearl's space did not have the conditions to produce Purple Qi. Moreover, the Purple Cloud Wood was an extremely rare spiritual wood that could not be found casually. The ability to produce the Yin-Yang Purple Jade and the Purple Cloudwood Core was a hard condition for a force to become one of the top forces in Beiyuan Xiuxian. The three major sects of the state of Zhao did not produce these two items. These two items were crucial for the top forces to maintain their status. They were used to exchange resources with other forces. If Wang Daoyuan asked Daoist Thunderflame for these items, it would make things difficult for Daoist Thunderflame. Thus, he did not ask for it. It was more appropriate for him to ask for a flying boat. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands towards Daoist Thunderflame and said, "To be honest, the Wang clan needs a flying boat to expand the scope of our business. It doesn't have to be of a high grade, as long as it can be used." Daoist Thunderflame wore a difficult expression and said, "Logically speaking, your request is very low. It's easy for me to forge a second-grade flying boat. However, the Divine Weapon Pavilion has an agreement with the three major sects that they are not allowed to provide things to the three major sections. This flying boat is one of the things that is strictly prohibited. So, little friend, please change your request. He couldn't ask for spiritual items for the Violet Palace realm or a flying boat. The Wang clan still had some third-grade magic artifacts in their inventory. A third-grade magic artifact was used to complement the soul of a Violet Palace realm cultivator. Below the Violet Palace realm, only Peak Foundation establishment cultivators could barely use it. Furthermore, it wouldn't be of much use. There wasn't much use for a third-grade magic artifact. Since he couldn't think of anything that he needed, he said, "Senior, if you have anything that you don't need, just give it to me. Anything that you don't fancy is also a treasure to me." Daoist Thunderflame pondered for a moment before he took out a jade slip and handed it to Wang Daoyuan. "Even if I give you a third-grade magic artifact, you won't be able to use it. There's a magical art here that you can use since you've cultivated a 5-elemental cultivation technique. You should be able to use any magical art." Wang Daoyuan respectfully received the jade slip and scanned it with his spiritual sense. He was shocked when he saw the beginning. He immediately handed the jade slip to Daoist Thunderflame and said, "This magical art is too precious. I don't dare to accept it." Daoist Thunderflame did not take the jade slip and smiled. "Don't worry about it. This Earth Divine Lightning isn't complete and can only be cultivated to the early Violet Palace realm. It can't be compared to the Zhao clan's complete Earth Divine Lightning, which can be cultivated to the peak of the Golden Core realm. This incomplete version of the 5-elemental Divine Lightning is nothing to Golden Core cultivators like me. I'm a Lightning Attribute cultivator and have never learned the 5-elemental Divine Lightning. There's no need for me to learn it. With this, no one below the Violet Palace realm will dare to touch the Wang clan. When you reach the peak of Foundation establishment, even early Violet Palace realm cultivators won't dare to touch you. With the Wang clan's safety guaranteed, Daoist invisibility will be able to cultivate in peace. I've also taught the Earth Divine Lightning to a few disciples in the Divine Weapon Pavilion. Their talent isn't as good as yours. When you see someone using the Earth Divine Lightning in the future, give them some face." Chapter 208. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, "If that's the case, then I'll shamelessly accept it. As for the disciples of the Divine Weapon Pavilion who use the Wuxia Divine Lightning, I'm afraid I'll be beaten to a pulp. I'm just a penta-spiritual roots cultivator. How could I be qualified to be courteous to the geniuses of the Divine Weapon Pavilion?" Lei Yen laughed, "Don't belittle yourself. The so-called penta-spiritual roots cultivator trash is just a bunch of ignorant people who think they're infallible. The Divine Weapon Pavilion was passed down from ancient times and existed long before Xiaofan was formed. At that time, penta-spiritual roots could be compared to heavenly spiritual roots. Cultivators with balanced penta-spiritual roots could be compared to heavenly spiritual roots cultivators with spiritual bodies. Heavenly spiritual roots were unconventional and their cultivation speed was fast, but when their realm was high, it was also troublesome. It was just that penta-spiritual roots consumed too many resources in the early stages of cultivation. Before the Golden Core realm, their cultivation speed was the worst. But after reaching the Golden Core realm, one would realize that penta-spiritual roots actually had great potential. Especially when breaking through to the Yuanying realm, penta-spiritual roots had a greater advantage than heavenly spiritual roots. Humans had 5 internal organs, which belonged to the 5 elements. Only when the 5 elements were balanced could the body be healthy. The body and soul belonged to yin and yang. Only when yin and yang were balanced could they complement each other. Penta-spiritual roots were the easiest to achieve the balance of the 5 elements. The higher the realm of cultivation, the greater the advantage. For example, the creator of the 5 elements Divine Lightning was a penta-spiritual roots cultivator called 5 Thunder Spiritual Master. After breaking through to the Yuanying realm, he comprehended the 5 elements Divine Lightning. The current 5 elements divine lightning should be called the lesser 5 elements divine lightning art. It was deduced by 5 Thunder spiritual master using the 5 elements divine lightning art as a template. Of course, the power of a spell was definitely not as strong as a divine ability. But the lesser 5 elements divine lightning art was also an extremely powerful spell. Now, this lightning art was also incomplete. The Gui water divine lightning was still complete in the Zhao royal family, and Lord Linhai's branch should also have an inheritance. The fire divine lightning was also incomplete in the Wanyang palace. It was said that it could only be cultivated to the peak of foundation establishment. There are still 2 lightning arts missing. Wang Daoyuan was somewhat puzzled. He asked, "I've always had some doubts about what Senior said." According to the ancient records, Beiyuan Xiuxian used to have many cultivators who surpassed Yuanying. Why was it that in the past 10,000 years, no one had been able to form Yuanying? There's also the problem of the spirit body. Is Dao Yin's physique a thunder spirit body? Daoist Thunderflame stroked his long beard and said, "The questions you want to ask aren't really secrets. You'll naturally know once you reach the golden core stage." Although the cultivation speed of penta-spiritual roots cultivators was extremely slow, they had an advantage that was similar to that of heavenly spiritual roots cultivators. That was, other than the major realms, there would not be any bottlenecks that were difficult to break through. Moreover, the more balanced the 5 spiritual roots were, the less likely it was for a bottleneck to occur. Now that you've passed the foundation establishment stage, the fluctuations of your divine sense are very strong, and the cultivation method you practice is also quite advanced. Opening the Purple Palace isn't a difficult task. Given that he was proficient in pills, talismans, and formations, resources were not a problem for him. Thus, his chances of forming a golden core in the future were still quite high. There's no harm in telling you these things now. Beiyuan Xiuxian got its name because it was located to the north of the absolute heaven abyss. In some ancient books, the Beiyuan calendar was used to record the years. The first year of the Beiyuan calendar was the time when the absolute heaven abyss was formed. After the struggle for hegemony, the various countries no longer used the Beiyuan calendar. Right now, it should be a little more than 70,000 years of the Beiyuan calendar. Before the absolute heaven abyss was formed, this place was a part of a great cultivation world. The heaven/mountain range was also a remnant of the great cultivation world's main spirit vein. After it was cut off by the absolute heaven abyss, it became the heaven/mountain range. As for how the absolute heaven abyss was formed, some ancient records were also unclear. I've also gone to see the absolute heaven abyss. I've only gone less than 100 miles, and encountered danger several times. As for the entire absolute heaven abyss, one couldn't see the end of it. It definitely wasn't something a golden core cultivator could cross. Because the main spirit vein was cut off by the absolute heaven abyss, only the remnant heaven/mountain range was left. Thus, after the absolute heaven abyss was formed, the concentration of spiritual energy in the entire Beiyuan Xiuxian had been constantly declining. More than 10,000 years ago, it was already insufficient to support golden core cultivators to form Yuanying. In the beginning, they could still rely on the spiritual items left behind by their ancestors to form Yuanying. 10,000 years ago, the spiritual items were exhausted, and no one was able to form Yuanying anymore. In the recent few hundred years, the concentration of spiritual energy in Beiyuan Xiuxian had stabilized, and didn't continue to decline, but for some unknown reason. Even if you know about these things, it's useless. As for the matter of spiritual bodies, you should also know a bit. Spiritual bodies and spiritual roots come from the same source. Spiritual roots are formed by the innate 5 elements qi that a person carries before they're born. People with insufficient innate 5 elements qi would become ordinary people without spiritual roots. A very small number of people have extremely sufficient innate 5 elements qi, and the spiritual roots condensed are not completely exhausted, or unable to completely condense into spiritual roots. When the innate 5 elements qi dissipates to various parts of the body, there's a possibility of forming a spiritual body. This kind of person is much rarer than heavenly spiritual roots. According to the amount of innate 5 elements qi, spiritual bodies are also divided into various grades and grades. Some are strong, some are weak. Spiritual bodies are also divided into innate and acquired. Some people have excess innate 5 elements qi in their bodies, but for some reason, they can't form a spiritual body. Of course, if they can't form a spiritual body, the innate 5 elements qi isn't wasted. This kind of person usually has excellent perception, and their cultivation speed is very fast when they're young. Moreover, their cultivation speed of the 5 elements is much faster than ordinary people. Through some methods, they can also cultivate an acquired spiritual body. An acquired spiritual body is far less helpful to cultivation speed than an innate spiritual body. But in terms of perception and cultivation speed of the 5 elements, it's not inferior to an innate spiritual body, and is even stronger. The cultivation method of acquired spiritual body has been lost for a long time. I've only heard of it, but never seen it. There's no rule for the emergence of spiritual bodies. Mortal parents can also give birth to cultivators with spiritual bodies. In addition to spiritual bodies, there's also a special kind of body called treasure body. This kind of body won't increase cultivation speed, and will even slow it down, but it's very suitable for the path of body refinement. As long as the right cultivation method is found and the treasure body's advantages are brought into play, they'll be invincible in fights. Therefore, treasure bodies are also called battle bodies. Mai and Dao Yin's bodies belong to this category. Different from spiritual bodies, the appearance of battle bodies can be traced. Only Yuaniing cultivators and above who have cultivated divine abilities have the possibility of battle bodies appearing in their descendants. There's another big advantage of battle bodies. If one can cultivate a suitable cultivation method, the potential of battle bodies can be developed. When one reaches late-stage golden core, they can almost all comprehend minor divine abilities corresponding to battle bodies. It can be said that battle bodies are formed when a minor divine ability is sealed in one's body. Cultivating a suitable cultivation method is just a matter of finding a way to break the seal. Because Yuaniing cultivators comprehend different divine abilities, their descendants will also have different battle bodies. Battle bodies are related to bloodlines. Dao Yin and I have the same battle body, which means that we have a common ancestor many years ago. Speaking of which, we're from the same sect. Although the lineage has long been broken, our bloodline has been passed down. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and thanked him. Thank you for clearing my doubts, Senior. I've thought through many of my previous doubts. Lei Yan waved his hand and said, Zhao Liang married into the Wang family and Dao Yin became my direct disciple. We're all family, so there's no need to be so polite. I've said so much to you because you act appropriately and have excellent comprehension. I don't want you to be prejudiced by a bunch of idiots and affect your Dao path. It's just that you're too scheming that I don't like. How can a good person like you be so scheming? Dao Yin is better. Although his comprehension isn't as good as yours, he's honest. Wang Daoyuan said with a smile, I'm a penta-spirit veins cultivator. I'm not so scheming and wouldn't be where I am today. On the other hand, my second brother isn't so scheming. Why don't you take him in as well? Lei Yan was stunned and said with a smile, You're talking about that kid who cultivated the lustrous golden body art? To be able to cultivate the lustrous golden body art to such a level, his talent is indeed not bad. It's a pity that this old man likes honest people, not stupid ones. Chapter 209. Wang Daoyuan couldn't help laughing. The Thunderflame Daoist's understanding of Wang Daoxing was rather comprehensive. He took out an interspatial pouch and a jade strip and handed it over to Wang Daoyin. I didn't have any good food for you to eat after leaving home, so this jade strip contains some recipes that I've summarized. You can learn how to cook when you're free and rely on yourself. This storage bag is filled with dried meat. It will be used as rations for you and Senior on the way. Cultivate well when you reach the Divine Weapon Pavilion and don't let Senior down. Wang Daoyin received the jade strip and interspatial pouch. Don't worry about it, second brother. I will cultivate well. But I'll be away from home, so I won't be able to take care of my parents. I'll leave it to you and big brother. Wang Daoyuan patted Wang Daoyin's shoulder. Little brother is sensible now. You don't have to worry about me and big brother. The Thunderflame Daoist took out a jade strip and handed it over to Wang Daoyuan. This contains the insights of breaking through to the Violet Palace realm. The Wang clan should have some of the insights left behind by Daoyu. But the more, the better. Wang Daoyuan received the jade strip and cupped his hands. Thank you, Senior. Things like cultivation experience were precious treasures to any force. When they heard that the Thunderflame Daoist was leaving, the Wang clan's foundation establishment cultivators came to send him off. After the Thunderflame Daoist bade farewell to the Wang clan, he flew south with Wang Daoyin. After sending off the Thunderflame Daoist and Wang Daoyin, Wang Daoyuan left a copy of the insights of breaking through to the Violet Palace realm and handed it over to his 12th uncle. With his cultivation speed, it would take at least a few decades for him to use the insights. But his great-grandfather and 5th uncle could use it right now. There was no need for him to manage the clan's affairs, so there was no need for him to stay in the Jade Spring Peak. He also needed to find a place to practice the Earth Divine Lightning that the Thunderflame Daoist left for him. It wasn't suitable for him to practice it in the Jade Spring Peak since it was known for its lethality. It was better to head to the Lingji Mountain as soon as possible since there were all sorts of demonic beasts there that could be used to test the lethality of the Earth Divine Lightning. After informing the Grand Elder, he left the Jade Spring Peak and headed for the Lingji Mountain. After 2 months, Lingji Mountain was still relatively peaceful. The lightning ape was causing trouble everywhere, but none of the surrounding demonic beasts dared to come and seek death. However, without Wang Daoxing and Wang Daoyin, the rank 1 demonic beasts had a much better life. Lingji Mountain was still in its early stages. The high-value spiritual herbs had only been planted for a few years, so it was not time to harvest them yet. With the protection of the wood withering flourishing formation and the wall of vines, no rogue cultivators would come to seek death. The job of controlling the array formation had already been handed over to 5th brother Wang Daozong. After Wang Daoyuan returned to Lingji Mountain, he was too lazy to care about controlling the formation. Instead, he went straight to the cave abode of the Red Fire Ape to study the Wuta Divine Thunder. The complete version of the lesser 5 elemental lightning technique had 9 levels each. The corresponding realm was from the early stage of foundation establishment all the way to the late stage of Aurus Core. Wang Daoyuan only had 4 levels of the Earth Divine Lightning remaining, and the 4th level corresponded to the early stage Violet Palace realm. Although it was incomplete, it was enough to last for a long time. The 3 Gui water lightning pearls given to him by his grandfather were only cast by a late-stage foundation establishment cultivator. Once he mastered the 3rd level of the Earth Divine Lightning, he would be able to create an Earth Lightning Pearl and keep it as a trump card for his family. Creating a primitive spiritual talisman like the Earth Lightning Pearl wasn't difficult for a formation master and talisman master. The Earth Divine Lightning was created by Yuanian cultivators on the basis of their abilities. It was very different from ordinary magic arts. Ordinary magic arts only required one to circulate spiritual energy in a different way and control it with spiritual sense. The Earth Divine Lightning was different from ordinary magic arts. Wang Daoyuan followed the method recorded in the Jade Slip and practiced for 2 days. In the end, he was only able to release an Earth attribute spiritual energy ball. It was even weaker than the golden blade art. How could it be the 5-elemental lightning that was known for its destructive power? It was more appropriate to call it the earth ball art. Fortunately, the jade slip also recorded the method to cultivate the earth divine lightning. The earth divine lightning wasn't like ordinary magic arts that could be released by circulating spiritual energy. One had to visualize lightning in the sea of consciousness and comprehend its power. Only after comprehending the power of lightning and using earth attribute spiritual energy to simulate lightning arts could one release the true earth divine lightning. The power of the 5-elemental lightning was closely related to the user's understanding of lightning. Comprehending lightning was a bit difficult for ordinary people. After all, lightning attribute cultivators were rare. Where would they go to comprehend the power of lightning? Thunder on a rainy day was very different from lightning arts. Wang Daoyuan wasn't an ordinary person. His younger brother was a lightning attribute cultivator. He cultivated the 5-elemental arts and could also use lightning attribute magic arts. It was just that his speed was a bit slower. Over the years, he had seen the power of lightning. Especially now that he had subdued the lightning ape. The lightning attribute magic arts he knew were all rank 1 and weren't of much use. However, the lightning ape's innate magic arts weren't weak. If he wanted to visualize lightning, all he had to do was bring the lightning ape to cause trouble. All the demon beasts within 100 miles were as obedient as his grandson. There was no need to fight them. If those obedient demon beasts were killed, the spirit vein they occupied would be empty and other demon beasts would come over. The newly arrived demon beasts wouldn't know their place and would cause trouble at Linji Mountain, affecting the development of Linji Mountain. He would leave those obedient demon beasts alive and let them become the outer defense of Linji Mountain. Wang Daoyuan brought the lightning ape to a spirit vein more than 200 miles south of Linji Mountain. This was a middle-grade grade 2 spirit vein and the demon beast occupying it was a middle-grade grade 2 cloud-patterned python. The cloud-patterned python was more than 100 feet long and the lightning ape would have to put in some effort to kill it. Coincidentally, Wang Daoyuan could observe it as well. Without needing Wang Daoyuan's instigation, the lightning ape sensed the aura of other demon beasts and charged up the mountain to fight the cloud-patterned python. Wang Daoyuan released his golden wings and guarded the surroundings while he stood about 200 feet away from the battlefield. He observed the lightning ape's magic arts carefully and felt the power of lightning. The lightning ape was indeed a mutated demon beast with a high-grade bloodline. Its use of lightning attribute spiritual energy was extremely brilliant. Not only could it release lightning balls, but it could also use lightning attribute spiritual energy to form lightning whips to whip the cloud-patterned python. The way it whipped the cloud-patterned python was very similar to Wang Daoyuan's 5-dragon soul-chasing whip. It was indeed the most intelligent demon beast below humans. Its ability to imitate was really strong. However, the power of the lightning whips was still a far cry from the innate magic arts. Wang Daoyuan observed the lightning attribute magic arts while visualizing lightning in his sea of consciousness. After an hour, the cloud-patterned python was covered in wounds. The lightning ape accumulated spiritual energy and released a bull-sized lightning ball towards the python's head. The cloud-patterned python couldn't dodge in time and was hit by the lightning ball. Its entire head exploded and it died on the spot. Wang Daoyuan also closed his eyes and focused on visualizing lightning in his sea of consciousness. The lightning ape threw the cloud-patterned python's body to the side and copied him. It sat cross-legged and closed its eyes to meditate. In his sea of consciousness, the lightning ball that the lightning ape released with all its strength kept appearing. He felt the power of lightning contained in it. 10 to 10 hours later, he began to condense an earth attribute spiritual energy ball in his hand. The spiritual energy fluctuations in the spiritual energy ball were constantly changing. Sometimes it was peaceful, sometimes it was violent, sometimes it was stagnant, and sometimes it was active. After more than 2 hours, the spiritual energy fluctuations in the spiritual energy ball in his hand were very similar to lightning arts. Suddenly, he released the spiritual energy ball in his hand and hit a tree as thick as an adult's waist 500 feet away. A low and deep voice sounded like muffled thunder. The tree was blown apart and the spiritual energy ball exploded. The yellow spiritual energy spread to the surroundings. After 30 breaths, the entire tree turned into a pile of ashes and the yellow spiritual energy disappeared. This tree was an unranked spiritual plant. The direct damage of the spiritual energy ball was only slightly stronger than the golden blade art. However, the earth attribute spiritual energy had the corrosive effect of the dust returning flame, causing continuous damage. The spiritual energy ball that was released this time could be considered as the earth divine thunder. At least it was somewhat similar to lightning arts. Chapter 210. The power of the lesser 5 elements lightning art depended on the cultivator's perception. Thus, not just anyone could cultivate it. Wang Daoyuan's earth divine lightning managed to display the lightning art's characteristics, barely passing the threshold. But he still had a long way to go before the earth divine lightning could be used in battle. Rumor had it that Zhao clan's early foundation establishment cultivator reached great success in the first stage of blooming water divine lightning. His speed was even faster than the average cultivator's golden saber art. From the start to the release of blooming water divine lightning, only half a breath's time was needed. The spiritual power consumption was only twice that of the golden saber art, but the power was 10 times that of the golden saber art. Earth divine lightning and blooming water divine lightning came from the same vein, so there shouldn't be much difference in speed and power. At his current level, earth divine lightning needed a dozen breaths' time, and its power was only slightly stronger than the golden saber art. Who knew how long it would take to reach the rumored level? Even if Wang Daoyuan was proficient in condensing earth attribute spiritual power balls, he still needed to cast them. However, during the casting process, he had to use earth attribute spiritual energy to simulate the lightning technique, which was the most time-consuming. To increase the casting speed, he had to increase his understanding of lightning and reduce the time needed to simulate the lightning art. This was a painstaking effort that couldn't be improved in a short time. Unless there was a cultivator proficient in earth divine lightning, he would be able to quickly increase his understanding. There were 2 important matters in his plan. One was to take over Fallen Dragon Ridge, which required him to reach Late Foundation establishment. The other was to go to the north of the mountain and search for pure Yin energy. According to Clone Chi Yun's memories, there was pure Yin energy in the north of the mountain where Corpse Sage passed away. According to 5 Element Sage's Beiyuan records, there was a place called Hell Valley in the north of the mountain. Deep within Hell Valley was a blooming water underworld spring. The spring water carried a large amount of pure Yin energy as it flowed into an underground river. Part of this underground river flowed out of the surface and into Hell Valley. Hell Valley's Yin energy was dense, gathering a large number of cultivators who walked the path of corpses. But the records in Beiyuan records were from the year 20,000 of the Beiyuan calendar, 50,000 years ago. 50,000 years had passed, and it was hard to say what was going on over there now. However, he still had to try. With the pure Yin Qi, he could make the inky jade lotus bloom and bear seeds. The patriarch and grand elder were not far away from the Pai Zi mansion. Even though it would take a few decades for him to open up the Pai Zi mansion, he still had to make some preparations in advance. Although the inky jade lotus could not directly increase the success rate of opening the purple palace, eating more lotus seeds and roots before breaking through could increase the strength of the soul. If the breakthrough failed, his body and soul would be severely injured. With the help of the inky jade lotus, his soul would recover much faster. As for his physical body, it recovered much faster than his soul. If he ate more powerful demonic beasts, he would be able to recover in no time. However, Shanbei also had a great enemy, Qi Yun's old rival, Chen Ji. Qi Yun had obtained the 10,000 Corp spiritual master's inheritance with him 40 years ago. 40 years ago, Chen Ji was already at the pinnacle of the Foundation establishment realm. It was hard to say if he had already established his Violet Palace. When he arrived at Shanbei, he could not reveal anything related to the Wang clan, nor could he easily reveal his clone. Otherwise, if he attracted someone who might be in the Purple Palace realm, not only would his life be in danger, but the Wang clan would also be in danger. Even if Chen Ji did not have the ability to take down the Jade Spring Peak, he would not be able to leave any of the properties in the Wang clan's territory. The most important thing right now was to practice some powerful spells that had nothing to do with the Wang clan. The Earth Divine Lightning was safer. When the Thunder Flame Daoist gave him the Earth Divine Lightning Jade Slip, the Patriarch and the others had not yet arrived. Only the Thunder Flame Daoist, himself, and his younger brother knew that the Earth Divine Lightning had fallen into his hands. When he cultivated, he was also in the Sky Beheading Mountain range. For the time being, there was no fourth person who knew that he could use the Earth Divine Lightning. Furthermore, Chen Ji's main fighting force was the refined corpses that he obtained from the 10,000 Corp spiritual master. Although the Earth Divine Lightning was not a lightning attribute spiritual energy, it still carried the might of lightning. It was very effective against the refined corpses. Just to be safe, it was better to wait until his cultivation reached the 4th level of the Foundation establishment realm and he could use the Earth Divine Lightning in half a breath's time before heading to Shanbei. In the following days, he had been cultivating on Linji Mountain. 5 years later, Wang Daoyuan's cultivation had reached the 3rd level of the Foundation establishment realm, but there was still a big gap between him and the 4th level. His attainments and formations had also reached the 2nd level of the upper grade. Although the Earth Divine Lightning had not reached the legendary level, its speed had reached 3 shots in 2 breaths, and its power was about 9 times that of the Golden Blade technique. He had originally wanted to cultivate to the 4th level of the Foundation establishment realm in Linji Mountain. However, bad news came from the Jade Spring Peak. 9th great-uncle and 10th great-uncle had passed away. 9th great-uncle lived for 118 years, while 10th great-uncle lived for 116 years. They could be considered to have died of old age. Wang Daoyuan had been learning how to refine talismans from 9th great-uncle since he was young. In his eyes, 9th great-uncle was almost like his own grandfather. After hearing the news, he immediately flew back to the Jade Spring Peak on his sword. The morning hall for the 2 great-uncles was set up in the ancestral temple. When he returned to the Jade Spring Peak, the clan members had already set up the morning hall. He was taught by 9th great-uncle, so he also had to wear mourning clothes according to the standards of his own grandson. After 7 days, the clan leader personally cremated the 2 great-uncles and buried them in the ancestral grave at the back of the mountain. When 10th great-uncle left, he did not leave any regrets. His lifelong pursuit was to expand the clan's business. In recent years, the clan's business had become more and more prosperous, and it could be said that he had fulfilled his dream. Although 9th great-uncle saw that the clan was becoming stronger day by day, he was also very happy in his heart. However, he still felt regretful that he had not seen the clan's 3rd level talisman inheritance with his own eyes. This could not be helped, because there was no 3rd level talisman inheritance for sale on the market. Wang Daoyuan could only comprehend a few 3rd level lower grade talismans. After all, it was not a system inheritance, so it was very difficult to truly grasp 3rd level talismans. Moreover, Wang Daoyuan also lacked the materials to refine 3rd level talismans. 3rd level talisman brushes could still be bought at the Divine Weapon Pavilion. 3rd level spirit ink could not be helped. 3rd level cinnabar ore could not be found in the entire Qingli County. There might be some in the depths of the Sky Chop Mountain range, but the Wang clan did not have the ability to mine it now. They could also use the blood of 3rd level demonic beasts, so there was no need to think about it. Even if the entire Wang clan's strength was added together, they would still not be a match for a third-level demonic beast. Not to mention the most precious third-level talisman paper, which required the bark of a third-level spirit tree or the hide of a third-level demonic beast, as well as third-level spirit jade. None of these three materials were easy to obtain. As a result, Wang Daoyuan's talisman level had been stuck at the second level of upper grade all these years. Wang Daoyuan was also helpless and could only let ninth great-uncle pass away with regret. Before ninth great-uncle passed away, his last words were for Wang Daoyuan to burn an incense stick in front of his grave after refining a third-level talisman, so that he could be happy over there. When the great elder passed away, the entire Jade Spring Peak had to mourn for half a year. Wang Daoyuan also stayed at Jade Spring Peak for half a year to observe filial piety for ninth great-uncle. From then on, there were no longer any members of the Ji generation in the upper echelons of the Wang clan. However, the new generation had already begun to work for the clan. As early as 10 years ago, there were already members of the Biming generation in the clan. Now, the eldest and second son of the Biming generation had already reached adulthood. The eldest, Wang Mingxiang, had joined the Netherworld sect. This was also the custom of the subordinate clans of the Netherworld sect. Every generation had to have one member join the Netherworld sect. The second son, Wang Minghan, had a 6-inch 9-point earth spiritual root as his main spiritual root. He mainly cultivated the earth origin technique that Wang Daoyuan had seized back then. Now that he had just turned 20, he had already reached the 6th level of Qi refinement and was working in the mining mountain hall. The Ji generation had withered away, and the Biming generation had risen to prominence. Even though Wang Daoyuan was only in his 50s and still had a long lifespan, he could not help but sigh with emotion. The new generation had replaced the old. Chapter 211. Since the two elders had passed away, their positions couldn't be left empty. The business hall was managed by Wang Shouju, the son of the 10th great-uncle. Because Wang Shouju was inexperienced, he didn't become an elder directly. Instead, he was appointed as the chief steward. The position of the first elder was taken over by Wang Daochang, the third brother. The original mining mountain hall managed all the mines and forest farms of the family. There were too many things for one hall to manage. The purpose of the mining mountain hall was to train Wang Daochang. Now that Wang Daochang had become the first elder, it was not suitable for the mining mountain hall to continue managing most of the family's businesses. After the discussion of the elders, the spiritual wood hall was separated from the mining mountain hall to manage the family's forest farms. In the future, the mining mountain hall would only be responsible for managing mining matters. Because there were no suitable elders to manage these two halls, they could only be managed by the chief steward temporarily. The mining mountain hall promoted Wang Shouzheng, who had done a good job, to be the chief steward. Wang Shouzheng was ranked 17th and was now at the 7th level of Qi refinement. For many years, he had been in charge of the unimportant mines of the family. After the reform, he became the steward of the mining mountain hall and had been performing well. The spiritual wood hall promoted Wang Shouzheng, the 19th great-uncle, to be the chief steward. He had been managing the spiritual wood of the south mountain of Lingji Mountain for years. After mourning for the 9th great-uncle, Wang Daoyuan was ready to set off for the northern part of Huiyan Mountain. The repair of the wave-chasing flying boat would have to wait. Although Wang Daoyuan was already a second-level upper-grade array master and had the ability to repair the flying boat array, he didn't have experience in this area after all. If he went to repair the flying boat now, the success rate was not high. If the more he cultivated, the worse it would be, the more the loss. Besides, the Wang family didn't have a second-level upper-grade refiner. With his own ability, he might not be able to dismantle the flying boat. Zhao Liang was only a second-level upper-grade refiner. If the core of the flying boat was damaged, he wouldn't be able to repair it. Wang Daoyuan was really worried about asking the Yang family for help. Therefore, the repair of the flying boat would have to wait until Zhao Liang's refining level reached the second level upper grade or until he had time to study refining techniques in the future. The Wang family wasn't ready to open up a trade route at present, and the flying boat was not urgently needed. Moreover, the Wang family also had a replacement for the flying boat, which was Yunyi's dual-purpose flying tiger. Now, if he tied a spirit ship with a floating array formation to its tail, it could also function as a flying boat. Although Yunyi had learned her lesson and needed twice the amount of barbecued meat to pull the boat, the price was still much lower than using the flying boat. There was nothing for him to take care of in the family, so there was no need for him to stay any longer. Although his cultivation was still at Foundation Establishment Level 3, Chen Ji did not know that Qi Yun had fallen into his hands. As long as he didn't expose the soul-extinguishing bell and his doppelganger, Chen Ji would know who he was. Therefore, those with lower cultivation levels would not be in much danger. In order to cause trouble in Shanbei and not implicate the Wang family, Wang Daoyuan left Yunyi, the Golden Wings, and the Thunder Ape behind. They had been with the Wang family for a long time and were already familiar with each other. Even if Wang Daoyuan was not by their side, they would not harm the Wang family. Yunyi, in particular, was busy running transportation and earning barbecue meat all day long. She had long become friends with the other clansmen. Moreover, there were many demons in Shanbei. Raising spirit beasts would be viewed as enemies by the demons. Wang Daoyuan informed the new Grand Elder, Wang Daochang, about his travels. He was too lazy to manage the family's affairs, so Wang Daochang did not stop him. He only sent Wang Daoxing to guard Linji Mountain. Wang Daoyuan quietly left Jade Spring Peak and found a secluded place in the sky/mountain range. He used a disguise technique and changed his appearance to Zhao Yunqing's. He changed out of his family's attire and into the attire of itinerant cultivators. Then, he flew north on his sword. The flying sword he used was the Flat Wave Sword. The Shocking Wind Sword was a wind attribute Dharma artifact. It was too eye-catching, so it was better to put it away. Wu Yi was originally from this side, so it was easy for others to see through him if he used the black gold sword. The Flat Wave Sword was slow. It took 14 to 16 hours to reach Guiyan Market. Guiyan Market was in the northern part of Guiyan Mountain. At the entrance of the northern part of Guiyan Valley, it was the place where the Netherworld sect traded with the demons. The goods of the Netherworld sect entered Guiyan Valley from Golden Goose City, passed through Guiyan Valley, and arrived at Guiyan Market. The Netherworld sect had a Zifu disciple overseeing Guiyan Market. The demons had also sent a rank 3 demon beast to oversee this place. The north of Guiyan Mountain had always been inhabited by humans and demons. The area around Guiyan Market was mainly inhabited by humans. There were very few demon beasts. Some of the mountains with spirit veins even had clans and small sections. The 2,000 li north of Guiyan Mountain was not much different from the southern part of the mountain. Although it was not as densely covered with rivers as Qingli County, it was more suitable for farming than Heian County, which was mainly grassland. The humans here were still mainly farming. 2,000 li north of the mountain, there was a lack of water. The environment was mainly grassland. The humans living there mainly herded animals. 10,000 li north of the mountain was a desert. There were very few mortals here. Further north was an ice field. There were almost no humans living there. The demon race was very widespread. There were demon beasts scattered all over Guiyan Mountain. 10,000 li west of Guiyan Market, there were many demon beasts gathered in the mountains. There were even high-rank demon beasts. 2,000 li north of the mountain, in the grassland, desert, and ice field, the number of humans was far less than that of demon beasts. High-rank demon beasts could give birth to half-demon offspring. In the north of Guiyan Mountain, half-demons were also a powerful force. Some of the half-demons were close to humans. Some were demons of the same bloodline. Most of the half-demons were neutral. They lived in tribes all over the northern part of the mountain. As long as they had obvious human and demon characteristics, they could be considered half-demons. For example, the head and second head of the Red-Beard bandits did not look any different from humans. However, they did not look like humans. Instead, they looked more like the mane of demon beasts. Furthermore, they had inherited the innate techniques of the demon race. They were also considered half-demons. The scale of Guiyan market was not small. The entire market had close to 2,000 shops. After all, it was the business center between the northern and southern parts of the mountain. Various forces had shops here. The entire market was shaped like a trumpet. It was narrow in the south and wide in the north. The shops at the southern end of the market were distributed along the cliffs on both sides of the valley. The terrain was narrow. There was only one main road and 2 rows of shops. The further north it was, the more shops there were. The streets were crisscrossed. Wang Daoyuan landed outside the market. Guiyan Market was a place where good and bad people mixed together. It was best not to be too high profile. Guiyan Market was filled with people from all sides. Especially demons. Below rank 3, their intelligence was not as good as normal people and they were especially wild. The managers could not set any strict rules. They only forbade fighting in the market. If they damaged other people's things, they had to compensate. In addition, the market did not allow the sale of living things. Demons were not happy to sell demon beasts. Humans were not happy to sell slaves. They might as well ban all of them to avoid any disputes. Processed beast meat could only come from low-rank spirit beasts raised by humans or half-demons. The other businesses in the market were not much different from the ones in Clear Glass Market. Wang Daoyuan walked into the market. Immediately, a level 3 Qi refinement human cultivator came forward to talk to him. "Senior, is this your first time in Guiyan Market? Although my cultivation is low, I have lived here since I was young. If you want to buy something, I can help you find the most affordable shop." This person was a broker. He helped some shops to attract business and collected commissions and a percentage of the shop's profits. Guiyan Market was a place with many forces. It was not like Oasis, where the higher-ups were one family and the brokers were the higher-ups' dogs. The brokers here didn't have much of a background. They were all rogue cultivators with poor cultivation talent and no special skills. They could only rely on their eloquence and familiarity with the market. They pulled in business for the shops and earned some hard-earned money. Wang Daoyuan was unfamiliar with this place. He wanted to stay in Guiyan Market for a while and ask about the northern part of the mountain. He wanted to know about Hell Valley and 10,000 corpse Daoists' resting place. If he went in without knowing anything, he would easily be cheated to death. Chapter 212. In fact, he had Wu Yi and Qi Yun, 2 clones from Shanbei, so he knew a thing or two about Shanbei. It was just that the situation that Qi Yun knew was already something that happened decades ago. His soul was damaged many times and many of his memories were fragmented. When Wu Yi's cultivation wasn't high, he had become one of Blood Shadow's men and rarely traveled outside. After he reached the Foundation Establishment realm, he had been carrying out missions to earn spirit stones. He only knew information related to missions and knew very little about other things. Moreover, there was no such place as Hell Valley in their memories. Since this broker delivered himself to his doorstep, he could get some information from him. Wang Daoyuan had some understanding of Wild Goose Market, but he didn't have any connections here, so he couldn't be as well informed as these brokers. Moreover, no matter how weak a broker was, he was still a local tyrant and had a considerable network of connections in the local area. Sometimes, it would be much better to ask them for help than to do it himself. Wang Daoyuan was looking for a place to stay, so he asked, "Where is there a place to stay? I want a safe place." The broker smiled, "I understand Senior's request. Rest assured, I will take you to the publicly recognized safest inn." Wang Daoyuan wanted to understand the situation here as soon as possible, so he chatted a bit more with the broker. He asked, "Which force opened this inn? Why is it recognized as the safest?" Broker answered, "This inn is called Guiyuan Inn, it's run by Guiyuan Sword Sect." Wang Daoyuan knew of the Origin Sword Sect, a vassal of the Zhao clan. After the three great sects defeated the Zhao clan, the Origin Sword Sect suffered heavy losses and disappeared. South of Wild Goose Mountain, there were many sword cultivator inheritances passed down, most of which came from the Origin Sword Sect. For example, Wuyi's Borrowing Sword, Heaven-Cleaving Sword, Innumerable Sword Art, all came from the Origin Sword Sect. The Origin Sword Sect's founding ancestor was a mid-Violet Palace stage sword cultivator, known as Origin Returning Cultivator. When the Zhao clan was still around, he was rewarded with a third-grade spirit vein for his contribution in stopping the beast tide. Guiyuan Wanderer opened his sect and accepted disciples, establishing the Guiyuan Sword Sect. Later on, the three great sects defeated the Zhao royal family, and Guiyuan Wanderer died in battle. After that, there was no more news about the Guiyuan Sword Sect in Shannon. From Qi Yun and Wu Yi's memories, he learned that the sect leader of the Guiyuan Sword Sect had fled to the north of Mount Huiyan with the elite disciples and the core inheritance of the sect. He snatched a lower tier, 3 spirit vein and rebuilt the Guiyuan Sword Sect. The mountain gate of the Guiyuan Sword Sect was more than 3,000 miles west of Guiyan City. Most sword cultivators were honest people. Good and bad were all on the surface. Among the major forces north of Mount Huiyan, the Guiyuan Sword Sect had the best reputation. Therefore, Guiyuan Inn was naturally the safest and most reliable place to stay. Broker stood there with an embarrassed smile on his face. Wang Daoyuan had been out there for many years, so he naturally knew what this meant. He took out a spirit stone and handed it to Broker, saying, "Take me to Return to Origin Inn first. While you're at it, help me find out if there are any shops for rent or sale. I want a clean shop. Don't let a bunch of bullshit happen after the business opens. After it's done, I don't care about 8 or 10 spirit stones." He planned to buy or rent a shop here and open a shop for alchemy. He wanted to buy some special elixirs of Shannon and enrich the variety of spiritual plants in the space of the spiritual pearl. Otherwise, wouldn't this trip to Shannon be in vain? Broker's appetite was much smaller than the one in Oasis. When he heard that there was a reward, he immediately became excited and hurriedly said, "Thank you, Senior. Don't worry, I will definitely find a suitable shop for you. Senior, my name is Fu Cheng. If you have any orders, you only need to tell the people at Return to Origin Inn. I won't guarantee that I will be there at any time." Fu Cheng took the spirit stone from Wang Daoyuan's hand and eagerly led the way in front. Guiyan City was quite lively. Every street was bustling with people coming and going. Most of the people on the street were humans. There were also many half-demons. There were almost no demon beasts running around. In less than half a cup of tea's time, Fu Cheng brought Wang Daoyuan to Return to Origin Inn. Return to Origin Inn's business was pretty good. The hall on the first floor of the inn was the dining area. It was bustling and full of people. When he saw Fu Cheng bringing people in, the inn's greeter immediately came forward and asked, "Senior, are you having a meal or staying in the inn?" Wang Daoyuan replied, "Staying in the inn." The greeter asked, "Our inn has a shared bed, a single room. Behind the shop, there are a few independent courtyards. Which one do you want?" Wang Daoyuan replied, a single room. As a foundation establishment cultivator, living in a shared bed was too cheap. Living in an independent courtyard was too high profile. A single room was better. The greeter brought Wang Daoyuan to the second floor and came to a single room. He handed a token to him and said, "Senior, this is the token that controls the formation of this room. Keep it safe. If you need anything, just use the token to send a message. In addition, this single room costs 2 spirit stones per day. What do you think?" Wang Daoyuan took out 20 spirit stones and handed them to the greeter, saying, "I'll stay for 10 days first." The greeter took the spirit stones and left happily. Wang Daoyuan entered the single room. The room was not big and the furnishings were also very simple. There was only a bed and a table. The single room he was in was right above the hall. The window was right above the entrance of Return to Origin Inn. He opened the window and casually looked outside. He saw a young man walking towards the entrance. This person had the appearance of a young man. His cultivation was at the second layer of foundation establishment. Although Wang Daoyuan did not recognize this young man's face, he felt that he was somewhat familiar. This person was the son of the former head of Green Willow Province, Shi Zhenbang, Shi Xinghua. As soon as the young man arrived at the entrance, a third-layer foundation establishment young man came out of the shop to welcome him. He welcomed the person who came from outside into the backyard. Wang Daoyuan carefully listened to the conversation between the two. He heard the young man coming out of the shop say, "Brother Shi is finally here. You've made me wait for a long time." The young man with the surname Shi smiled and said, "The journey was long and I was delayed. I hope Brotherly doesn't mind. How is it? Is young Master Zhao still here?" The voice was somewhat familiar. In addition, his surname was Shi. Wang Daoyuan remembered who this person was. Green Willow Province's Shi Zhenbang's son, Shi Xinghua. The two people's voices became softer and softer. Then, as if they had entered a place with a soundproof formation, he could no longer hear their voices. Wang Daoyuan was somewhat confused. Shi Zhenbang had just passed away a few years ago. The Shi family had lost its pillar of support. Their days in Green Willow Province should not be easy. At this time, Shi Xinghua was not guarding his home. He should be cultivating in order to make a comeback. Why did they come all the way to the Wild Goose Market, which was so far away from them? He even said he wanted to pay a visit to young Master Zhao. The Shi family had been the leader of Green Willow Province for so many years. In the past, they even had the title of Heian Commandery Duke. Shi Xinghua was the heir of the Shi family. If the Imperial Zhao family had not been overthrown, he would have been Heian Commandery Duke. The sect master of the Guiyuan sword sect was surnamed Li. This person with the surname Li was very likely a descendant of the Guiyuan sword sect master. For the two of them to respectfully address him as young master, his status was definitely not low. In addition, with this surname, there was an 80% chance that he was a descendant of the Imperial Zhao family. The Imperial Zhao family was on good terms with the Guiyuan sword sect. They were also in cahoots with the Shi family of Green Willow Province. Thinking back to the recent 20 to 30 years, Green Willow Province had been recruiting and expanding their strength. They were going to cause trouble. Shi Zhenbang was dead. The Shi family was weak in Green Willow Province. It was clearly not appropriate to cause trouble now. However, since they chose to cause trouble at this time, there were two possibilities. Either they had more powerful experts and did not lack a peak foundation establishment cultivator like Shi Zhenbang. Or Shi Zhenbang was not dead at all and released the news of his death to make the underworld sect lower their guard. Chapter 213. After deducing these two possibilities, Wang Daoyuan himself was shocked. No matter what the situation was, the Green Willow State and the Origin Sword sect might stab the Underworld sect in the back. As a result, the Wang family's position became somewhat awkward. Regardless of whether it was the Green Willow State going west or the Beiyuan Sword sect going south, the Wang family was likely to be attacked. Moreover, once they made a move, the Yang family, as an elder of the Nether sect, would definitely fight them to the death. As an ally of the Yang family, how should the Wang family stand? If the Zhao family's hidden forces made a move, they definitely had a certain degree of confidence. The Wang family was an old vassal of the Zhao family, and they had been bullied by the external branch of the Underworld sect for many years. Before the Zhao family took action, they would definitely try to draw the Wang family to their side. Once the Zhao family took action, the Ghost sect would have to guard against the Wang family's betrayal and force the Wang family to take a stand. It was still unknown how much wealth the Zhao clan had. It was hard to say who would win or lose. If the Wang family stood on the wrong side, it was very likely that they would repeat the mistakes of their ancestor. He had to inform the 12th uncle about this so that he could be prepared. This was to prevent the Wang clan from being at a loss when the two clans started fighting. It was even more impossible for him to inform the Netherworld sect. If he revealed the secret, he would be announcing the Wang clan's side. The Zhao clan's forces were all hidden in places where the three great sects could not easily make a move. Now that the Wang family had revealed the secret, the Netherworld sect could only be on guard at most. They couldn't wipe out the hidden forces of the Zhao family. The forces of the Zhao clan did not dare to touch the Netherworld sect, but did they not dare to touch the Wang clan? Although he wasn't sure how far the Zhao family's preparations had progressed, he was still worried. However, the Netherworld sect was not in a situation where they could not take care of themselves. Even if the Zhao clan was strong enough to defeat the Netherworld sect, they would not choose to attack head-on at this time. Once the Zhao clan displayed their extremely powerful strength, perhaps the three major sects would join forces again. Moreover, the Zhao clan had lost their 10,000 years of foundation more than 300 years ago, and all the experts in the clan had been wiped out. All these years, they could only hide in the deep mountains and forests. Without sufficient resources to nurture experts, their strength would not be too outrageous. The remaining forces of the Zhao clan hidden in various places, as well as the bloodline of Lord Waterfront in Linhai Prefecture. Their overall strength would not surpass the Netherworld sect by much at most. Moreover, there was a high probability that their strength was inferior to that of the Underworld sect. The possibility of taking down a sect was not high, so it was impossible for them to be a match for the three great sections. Therefore, the Zhao clan would definitely wait for the three great sects to fight to the death before making a move. In the last Small Beast Tide, the Underworld sect had used the Wang family's advance warning to trick the Thousand Spirit sect. The 10,000 Spirit sect had suffered significant losses. They would not try to take down the Underworld sect at this time. On the other hand, the Cruel Sun Palace was not as strong as the Underworld sect, and there was also the threat of the Wei Kingdom in the west. It was impossible for the Cruel Sun Palace to fight to the death with the Underworld sect without the Thousand Spirit sect taking action. Under such circumstances, the three major sects did not dare to force their way in. Since the three major sects did not fight, the forces of the Zhao clan did not dare to make a move either. The situation in the Zhao country would continue to be stable. The only instability was the conflict between the Underworld sect and the Cruel Sun Palace at the border. This conflict had been going on for more than 30 years. Although the upper echelons of both sides had been trying their best to restrain themselves and control the scale of the conflict, it hadn't escalated to the point of an all-out war. However, as the saying goes, no one is good at fighting, and no one is good at scolding. Even a fight between ordinary people could get angry and eventually blow up, let alone a conflict between two major forces. Many great wars started from small matters that gradually escalated. The two sects had been fighting on a small scale for 30 years. Their anger should not be small. It was very likely that they would directly fight because of a sudden incident. Even if there was no sudden incident, the forces of the Zhao clan could forcefully create one. It was hard to say how long the situation in the Zhao country would be stable for. Wang Daoyuan only hoped that it would be stable for more than 30 years. 30 years was enough for him to take down the fallen Dragon Ridge and move a portion of his clansmen to the Five Elements mystic realm. At that time, no matter how the situation in the Zhao country changed, the Wang clan would be able to sit on the fishing platform. Although he had to inform the 12th uncle of this matter as soon as possible, there was no rush. After all, he was still staying in the territory of the Beiyuan sword sect. It was not safe to send a message. He patiently stayed in the Beiyuan inn for 3 days. Then, Fu Cheng sent a message. Knowing that Wang Daoyuan wanted to open a shop, Fu Cheng immediately activated his network to look for shops that were interested in selling or renting out. There were many shops opened by rogue cultivators in the Guiyan market. It was common for shops to close due to poor management. Fu Cheng quickly found a few shops that were interested in renting out or selling. After finding them, he immediately informed Wang Daoyuan to check out the shops. Wang Daoyuan immediately walked out of the inn. Fu Cheng was waiting for him at the entrance. Seeing him come out, Fu Cheng quickly bowed and said, "Senior, I've already contacted a few shops that are interested in renting out or selling. I'll bring you to take a look." Wang Daoyuan nodded and said, "Lead the way." Fu Cheng brought him north. As they walked, he asked, "Senior, what kind of shop do you want to open? In this market, different businesses are suitable for different locations. Also, try to avoid the shops of the various factions. For example, the Beiyuan sword sect could be considered a medium-sized force. There were more than 10 shops near the Beiyuan inn. They were all businesses of the Beiyuan sword sect. These shops sell ores, spirit wood, magic tools, spirit talismans, pills, formation discs, spirit grains. There are also restaurants and inns. They do all kinds of businesses. There are even brothels. If Senior is interested, you can go and have some fun." Wang Daoyuan pretended to be angry and said, "Don't talk nonsense. Continue talking about the shops." Fu Cheng was shocked and quickly returned to the topic. The shops of the other factions are mostly in the same situation. They do many kinds of businesses in one place. If you open a shop near the shops of these factions, no matter what kind of business you do, you'll be stealing the livelihood of these factions. They might try to trip you up. Even if they don't play dirty and compete openly, a shop opened by a rogue cultivator will find it hard to compete with those large factions. So, if you want to do business, it's best to stay away from the shops of these factions. Hearing these words, Wang Daoyuan felt very strange in his heart. The Beiyuan sword sect was a sword cultivation sect. Sword cultivators were all one-track minded. They were not interested in things that had nothing to do with the sword. The Beiyuan records of the Five Elements spiritual master recorded the situation of many sword sections. The businesses of these sword sects were usually inseparable from the sword. Their main business was ores, spirit wood, and weapon refinement. These businesses were all related to the sword. But this Beiyuan sword sect was more special. Not only did they sell ores, spirit wood, and magic tools, but they also did not forget about pills, talismans, and formations. They also sold spirit grains, opened restaurants, and even brothels. Opening a brothel was something that most factions who wanted to save face would not be willing to do. It was not embarrassing enough. The Beiyuan sword sect was a sword cultivation sect. They should be the most upright and plain-spoken. Why did they even do the flesh business? Wang Daoyuan could not understand. He asked Fu Cheng, Isn't this Guiyuan sword sect a sword cultivation sect? A sword cultivation sect should only do ores, spirit wood, and weapon refinement business. Why does this Guiyuan sword sect do all kinds of business? Other than ores, spirit wood, and weapon refinement, when did they start doing all the other businesses? Fu Qing smiled. Senior, you are really experienced and knowledgeable. At first, the Guiyuan sword sect only did ores, spirit wood, and weapon refinement business. Starting from 30 years ago, the Guiyuan sword sect started to do other businesses. At first, they only sold spirit grains. Later on, they slowly started to do pills and spirit talismans business. In the last 10 years, they started to do formations, restaurants, and brothels business. Wang Daoyuan's heart sank. This time was just right when the oasis started to recruit people. The Guiyuan sword sect should have colluded with the oasis long ago. They should have been preparing for 30 years. Chapter 214. If the Zhao clan wanted to take back the state of Zhao from the three major sects, Qi disciple cultivators wouldn't be of much use in such a battle. The Qi disciple cultivators recruited by the Green Willow continent had to reach foundation establishment before they could become cannon fodder. The Green Willow continent's method of expanding their power was a bit like panning for gold. Winning by quantity, they could always find a few talents. As for the eliminated sand, it wasn't as if they were completely useless. There were rich resources around the Green Willow continent, but there were too many demon beasts and no one went to exploit them. Those rogue cultivators attracted to the Green Willow continent, even if they weren't worth cultivating, they could still earn a lot of resources by risking their lives around the Green Willow continent. The upper echelons of the Green Willow continent used brokers to sell pills, talismans and other resources at high prices to exploit them. The upper echelons then used these benefits to obtain pills, talismans and other resources from the Wang clan and other clans to cultivate the gold they had found. The Green Willow continent's model was based on the Shi clan's dominance of the Green Willow continent and the rich resources around it. In the vicinity of the Guiyan market, the Guiyuan sword sect was only a second-rate power and their sect leader was only an early-stage Zifu realm cultivator. The overall strength of the Guiyuan sword sect was even weaker than the Underworld sect. It was far inferior to the Shi clan status in the Green Willow continent and couldn't rely on exploiting rogue cultivators to obtain resources. Furthermore, the environment in the northern part of the mountain wasn't as good as the Green Willow continent and resources were lacking. The Green Willow continent's method of cultivating talents obviously couldn't be implemented in the northern part of the mountain. The two walked north along the main road in front of the Guiyuan Inn. Not long after, they saw a very busy shop. On the door of the shop, there was a signboard with the words, Guiyuan Sword Hall, written on it. Wang Daoyuan asked, "What does this Guiyuan Sword Pavilion do?" Fu Qing quickly answered, "Senior, this Guiyuan Sword Pavilion is also a shop opened by the Guiyuan Sword Sect. But it's a bit strange, this Sword Pavilion doesn't seem to want to earn spirit stones. It only teaches rogue cultivators spells and cultivation experience. If a rogue cultivator is talented, the Guiyuan Sword Sect will take him in and make him a disciple of the Guiyuan Sword Sect. As you know, rogue cultivators don't have a good life. Without a system of inheritance, it's hard to learn the various arts of cultivation. Rogue cultivators elsewhere can obtain resources by killing demon beasts, but they can't kill demon beasts here. Rogue cultivators could only make a living by picking herbs and doing manual labor, not to mention practicing magic. The Guiyuan Sword Sect imparts Dharma spells and cultivation experience to itinerant cultivators for free. In addition, if one has good aptitude, they can become a disciple of the Guiyuan Sword Sect. This attracts many itinerant cultivators. Hearing this, Wang Daoyuan was suddenly enlightened. The Guiyuan Sword Sect's method of nurturing talents was to walk the path of the elite. Imparting Dharma spells and cultivation experience to rogue cultivators did not cost much, and they could pick out good seedlings from the rogue cultivators. In addition, the Beiyuan sword sect had a very good reputation. When doing business, reputation was also a form of capital. Wang Daoyuan asked, "When did this Beiyuan sword pavilion start operating?" Fu Qing thought for a moment and said, "It's been about 30 years since the Beiyuan sword sect started the business of spirit grains and talismans." Wang Daoyuan thought to himself, "Sure enough." The Zhao clan's preparations began after Shi Zhenbang snatched the foundation establishment pills and attracted the itinerant cultivators. The conflict between the underworld sect and the cruel Sun Palace also started more than 30 years ago. From the looks of it, it was very likely that the Zhao clan deliberately stirred up trouble in order to divert the attention of the three major sects and make it easier for them to accumulate strength in secret. If they had just started accumulating strength more than 30 years ago, there should still be a long time before they made a move. Unless the Zhao clan nurtured subordinates like Wang Daoyuan did to himself. Elixirs, spirit fruits, spirit beast meat and other cultivation resources should be consumed as much as possible. Otherwise, most cultivators would not be able to grow in a short 30 years. At this moment, Wang Daoyuan was no longer in a hurry. Even another 30 years might not be enough to nurture a sizable batch of foundation establishment cultivators. The Wang clan did not want to be a minister of the emperor, they only wanted to protect their clan's foundation. Right now, they did not have the right to sit on the fence. If they were too weak, they would be courting death. If they dragged on for a few more decades, the Wang clan would be able to watch the show in peace after transferring all the mortals in the clan. After the victor was decided, it would not be too late to support the winning side. He was afraid that if the Zhao clan did not secretly fan the flames, the Netherworld sect and the cruel Sun Palace would not be able to suppress the flames and a war would break out in advance. At that time, it would be too late for all the factions to cry. Wang Daoyuan decided to open a shop near the Beiyuan sword sect first and then slowly inquire about the Beiyuan sword sect. Soon, Fu Qing brought him to a shop that sold elixirs called the Li clan's elixir shop. This shop was more than half a kilometer northeast of the Beiyuan Inn. The shops in the Beiyuan market were relatively large, with an average of a few acres. Therefore, the distance of half a kilometer was considered relatively close. Wang Daoyuan was more satisfied with this place. It was convenient to observe the Beiyuan sword sect's shop, and it would not affect business because it was too close. Although he had already determined his target, he still followed Fu Qing and walked around the other shops that were interested in selling. He could also understand the situation in the Beiyuan market. After walking around, the two returned to the Li clan's elixir shop. The shopkeeper of the Li clan's elixir shop was an itinerant cultivator. He was at the 6th level of foundation establishment and was about 150 years old. After working hard in the Beiyuan market for many years, he wanted to earn more spirit stones and strive to open the Violet Palace. Unfortunately, his alchemy skills were not up to standard. After working hard for many years, the spirit stones he earned were barely enough for his usual cultivation. He was less than 100 years away from the upper limit of his lifespan. There was no hope for him to cultivate to the peak of foundation establishment. Rather than wasting his life here, it was better to find a spiritual mountain and start a family. Wang Daoyuan haggled with the shopkeeper and finally spent 2,000 spirit stones to buy the shop. It also came with many Tier 1 spirit herbs and a small number of Tier 2 spirit herbs. Because buying and selling a shop in the Beiyuan market did not require any procedures. The shopkeeper gave the shop's deed and the defensive formation control token to Wang Daoyuan, and the shop's handover was completed. The shop's defensive formation was a low Tier 2 spirit herb. After Wang Daoyuan closed the formation, he entered the shop. The shop's layout was that of an ordinary shop, and there was nothing special about it. The backyard was more than 2 acres in size. There was a pill refining room and an immortal's cave. The rest of the area was opened up into spirit fields, and there were some Tier 1 spirit herbs planted in the spirit fields. He gave Fu Cheng 10 spirit stones for his hard work and sent him away. Then, he began to decorate the shop. In fact, it was just a matter of changing the signboard. He took down the old signboard, scraped off the words on it, and wrote, Huang's Pill Shop. Wang Daoyuan planned to change his name to Huang Wanli. After he was done, he might be able to scam the Huang family. After settling down, he also used a high-grade communication jade talisman to send a message to the 12th uncle, reminding him to make early preparations. The shop did not have any opening ceremony, so the business was not very good. He refined a cauldron of Tier 2 spirit herbs every day, which was enough to sell for 7 to 8 days. A month after the shop opened, a middle-aged cultivator at the 3rd level of foundation establishment came to the shop. This person wore a white robe with 3 small golden swords embroidered on the cuffs. He also carried a long sword on his back. This was the standard attire of the Beiyuan sword sect. Wang Daoyuan asked, May I know if Daoyu is here to buy pills or sell spirit herbs? The person smiled and said, I'm from the Beiyuan sword sect. I'm not here for pills or spirit herbs. I'm here for Daoyu. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, You're here for me. I only sell pills here, not people. The sword sect cultivator smiled and said, My Beiyuan sword sect is currently recruiting pill refiners. As long as Daoyu is willing to join my sect, you can state your conditions. Chapter 2:15. If the Beiyuan sword sect wanted to cause trouble, Wang Daoyuan didn't want to get involved. Spying on the Beiyuan sword sect didn't require him to risk his life. Even if he was an alchemist and wouldn't be used as cannon fodder, there was a high chance that he wouldn't have any freedom. His main goal was to find enough purine qi, not to be the grandson of the Beiyuan sword sect. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, Then I'll have to disappoint Daoyu. I'm used to being a wild crane and don't want to be controlled by others. All I want in my life is to open my violet palace. Can your sect give me a piece of yin-yang purple jade? Even a power like the underworld sect that had several golden core cultivators couldn't easily take out a piece of yin-yang purple jade, much less a small sect like the Beiyuan sword sect that only had one violet palace realm cultivator. The smile on the Beiyuan sword sect member's face disappeared and he said coldly, Daoyu, are you looking down on my Beiyuan sword sect? Wang Daoyuan didn't seem to notice the change in his expression and said, I only want to cultivate and open my violet palace. Even if I can't cultivate, I want to find a peaceful place and establish a family. I'm not interested in joining a sect. I'm just a wild person, how would I dare to look down on the Beiyuan sword sect? However, we walk different paths and can't work together. I hope fellow Daoist can forgive me for not being here. The Beiyuan sword sect member sneered, I'm afraid this isn't up to Daoyu. What if I force Daoyu to join? Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, So you're a disciple of the Beiyuan sword sect master. If your sect can't accept me, then I'll leave Guiyan market. There are more than 10 countries in Beiyuan Xiuxian, where can't you find a wild crane? The Li cultivator said disdainfully, I'm afraid it'll be a bit difficult for Daoyu to leave Guiyan market. At the very least, Daoyu won't be able to pass this trial. Sword cultivators were extremely strong in battle. Normal cultivators of the same level weren't a match for sword cultivators. With Wang Daoyuan's current strength, he could even defeat an average 6th level foundation establishment cultivator. What was a sword cultivator of the same level? He smiled and said, Could it be that this wild goose market square has become the private property of the origin sword sect? The Netherworld sect, the demon race, and the half-demon race don't have the final say, but the Beiyuan sword sect does? The cultivator surnamed Li said with a smile, the Beiyuan sword sect naturally can't control the Guiyan market square, but managing a loose cultivator like Dao Yu isn't a problem. There's no need for anyone else to do anything. I can make you submit myself. Wang Daoyuan also smiled and said, I've long heard that sword cultivators are powerful in fights of magical powers, but I've never had the chance to experience it. Since Dao Yuli is willing to teach me, I am more than happy to oblige. After saying that, Wang Daoyuan took out the token that controlled the array formation and opened the store's defensive array formation. Afterwards, he took out the soundproof array formation disk and installed spirit stones on it. After activating it, the entire store was enveloped in a soundproof array formation. After activating the array, Wang Daoyuan took out 40 to 50 middle-grade second-level talismans and said, restrain yourself when you fight, don't break the array formation. Is Dao Yuli ready? Seeing him take out so many talismans, the cultivator surnamed Li was a bit apprehensive, but he still refused to admit defeat. A few talismans are nothing, watch my sword break 10,000 techniques. Wang Daoyuan shook his head inwardly. This brat wasn't suited to be a sword cultivator. Sword cultivators advance courageously and never turn back. When this brat saw dozens of middle-grade second-level talismans, he was a bit scared. With fear in his heart, when he drew his sword, he didn't have the conviction to cut through everything. He simply couldn't unleash the true strength of a sword cultivator. Wang Daoyuan stuck 2 earth armor talismans on his body and said, please. The cultivator surnamed Li took out a middle-grade second-level longsword. Holding the sword in his right hand, he lightly brushed the sword with his left and right fingers. A streak of sword chi shot towards Wang Daoyuan. The classic starting move of a sword cultivator, borrowing a sword to cast a spell. This streak of sword chi was very fast. If Wang Daoyuan didn't use the mist escape, he definitely wouldn't be able to dodge it. He simply gave up on dodging and immediately activated the 2 layers of earth armor talismans on his body. He also took out a golden saber talisman. When the sword chi hit Wang Daoyuan's body, the first layer of earth armor talisman dimmed a lot, but it should be able to withstand the same attack one more time. Wang Daoyuan himself had also cultivated some moves of the sword cultivator. In terms of power alone, there was still a huge difference in the power of the sword that he had used to borrow the sword to cast the spell. The foundation of a sword cultivator was the unique imperial sword technique, in addition to the dedication to the sword and the conviction to break 10,000 techniques with one sword. With the unique imperial sword technique, the power of all sword cultivator spells would greatly increase. As for conviction, the cultivator surnamed Li in front of him clearly didn't qualify. If he encountered a sword cultivator with the same level of cultivation, the starting move just now would be enough to break through a layer of earth armor talisman. The cultivator surnamed Li saw that his sword wasn't effective. The golden saber technique also flew in front of him. He waved his longsword and a streak of sword chi shot out, colliding with the golden saber technique. The sword chi was scattered by the golden saber technique. The cultivator surnamed Li waved his sword again, only then was the middle-grade second-level golden saber talisman completely scattered. Wang Daoyuan felt that he had overestimated a sword cultivator. The middle-grade second-level golden saber talisman was just a toy in his hands. But for a sword cultivator of the same level as him, it was still a great threat. It seems that not all sword cultivators have the strength to surpass those of the same level. The cultivator surnamed Li didn't gain the upper hand in this exchange. He was a bit flustered and exasperated. What kind of skill is using an external object? Wang Daoyuan laughed saying, you're a sword cultivator, bullying a pill cultivator like me is skill. The cultivator surnamed Li's face darkened, saying, since Dao Yu is so obstinate, then don't blame me for being impolite. Saying so, he controlled his flying sword, making it float in the air. Soon after, the flying sword split off into streaks of sword chi to form the phantom of a long sword. This move was the myriad sword technique. Wang Daoyuan didn't dare to be careless, using 5 more earth armor talismans on himself. He also threw out the 20-odd offensive talismans in his hand. These talismans weren't thrown around randomly. Under the control of Wang Daoyuan's spiritual sense, the talismans quickly flew towards the cultivator surnamed Li. The cultivator surnamed Li's myriad sword technique had already formed 40 to 50 sword phantoms. Seeing the talismans fly over, he didn't dare to delay, immediately throwing out all of his sword phantoms. Wang Daoyuan immediately activated all of his talismans, then dodged backwards. The cultivator surnamed Li wasn't stupid, his sword split into 10-odd sword phantoms, wrapping around his body. This was a sword cultivator's defensive spell. The spell released by the talismans clashed with the sword chi, causing a loud explosion. The shockwave spread everywhere. Wang Daoyuan dodged ahead of time, staying a bit further away, and also having 6.5 layers of earth armor talismans to protect himself. The shockwave of the explosion broke through 3 layers of earth armor talismans, but didn't hurt him, only blowing him a few feet away. The cultivator surnamed Li's defensive spell wasn't weak, able to block the power of the explosion. His defensive spell was broken by the shockwave, but he also suffered quite a bit of internal injury. After the defensive formation withstood all of the shockwave, the defensive barrier was directly broken. The power of the shockwave was also completely exhausted, the shop didn't suffer much damage. If it wasn't for the protection of the defensive formation, the entire shop would have been destroyed, and the shockwave would have hit the surrounding shops as well. The soundproof formation was already broken, the sound of the explosion could be heard outside. Soon, a late Foundation establishment cultivator from the Netherworld sect and a half-demon cultivator of the same cultivation level arrived at the scene. The Netherworld sect cultivator asked, "What are you two doing? Why did you destroy the formation and disturb the surroundings?" Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "This is Dao Yuli here to spar with me. The two of us were too excited to fight and caused a bit of a ruckus. I hope Senior can forgive us." The half-demon cultivator sneered, "Seeing that you didn't harm anyone else, I won't pursue the matter. Brat from the Guiyuan sword sect, don't be too presumptuous, you haven't reached the level where you can cover the sky with one hand. This shop's formation was destroyed, you'll have to pay for it with spirit stones. If you dare to cause trouble again, you'll be severely punished." The two of them repeatedly said they didn't dare. Chapter 216. The Foundation establishment cultivator from the Underworld sect stared at the cultivator surnamed Li and warned coldly, "Kid from the Guiyuan sword sect, don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're in the north of the mountain." With that, the two late-stage Foundation establishment cultivators left on their swords. Wang Daoyuan took out another 40 to 50 middle-grade second-stage talismans and smiled, "Dao Yuli, do you want to fix the formation and continue or stop here?" The cultivator surnamed Li waved his hand, "I'm not Daoyo's match, so I'll take my leave now. When my cultivation improves greatly, I'll come back and spar with Dao Yu Zhao." With that, he turned and left. Wang Daoyuan couldn't be bothered to deal with this kid. If they were in the wilderness, he wouldn't have to waste so much effort. 2 Earth Divine Thunders would have been enough. Why would he waste his breath on him? After the cultivator surnamed Li left, Wang Daoyuan put away the broken soundproof formation disc. As for the defensive formation of the shop, he'd better wait for the people from the Guiyuan sword sect to fix it. It was already shocking enough to reveal that he could refine pills and possibly refine talismans. He couldn't reveal that he was proficient in formations as well. The fight with the cultivator surnamed Li caused a huge commotion and made the shop famous. Business improved a lot in the next few days. A cauldron of pills was sold out in 2 or 3 days. 3 days later, the Guiyuan sword sect sent someone over again. This time, it was the young man from the Li family who welcomed Shi Xinghua at the Guiyuan Inn. Behind him was a middle-aged cultivator at the 4th level of foundation establishment. This person was much more eloquent than the previous one. He cupped his hands towards Wang Daoyuan. I'm Li Jianfeng. Greetings, Daoyu Huang. Li Jianfeng was the eldest son of the Guiyuan sword sect master. It was said that he was extremely talented and reached the foundation establishment stage before he was 40. He was now in his 50s, about the same age as Wang Daoyuan. Although his face was kind, it could not hide the sharp aura around him. This person's attainment in the path of sword cultivation was far greater than the previous cultivator from the Li family. Since the other party was polite, Wang Daoyuan naturally treated him with courtesy. Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "So it is the young sect master of the Guiyuan sword sect who has graced us with his presence. Please forgive me for not welcoming you earlier." Li Jianfeng smiled and said, "I wouldn't dare. Earlier, my younger brother was rude and offended Daoyu. I hope Daoyu won't blame him. Today, I'm here to help Daoyu repair the formation." Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "It's just a small matter. There's no need for young sect master to grace us with your presence. Please come in and have a seat." Li Jianfeng gave the array formation master a look, and the array formation master began to inspect the damage of the store's defensive array formation. In Wang Daoyuan's eyes, the Li family really did not have the slightest bit of respect for their own sect's array formation master. If he had agreed to join the Guiyuan sword sect, he would have received the same treatment. He led Li Jianfeng into his cave residence and invited Li Jianfeng to sit down. After Li Jianfeng sat down, he said apologetically, "My younger brother has always been rash and has offended Daoyu. Please forgive him. I'm here to sincerely invite Daoyu to join the Guiyuan sword sect. I hope that Daoyu won't decline." Wang Daoyuan sighed and said, "When your younger brother came earlier, I also made it very clear. I'm used to being undisciplined and don't like restrictions. Your sect can't give me what I need the most. What your sect can give is nothing more than spirit stones. Does Daoyu think that I lack spirit stones?" Li Jianfeng was silent for a moment and said, "When Daoyu was teaching my younger brother a lesson earlier, he took out more than 100 middle grade 2 talismans. Ordinary cultivators, even if they were wealthy, would not carry so many talismans with them. Could it be that Daoyu is also a talisman master?" Wang Daoyuan knew that he could not hide it and said frankly, "I won't hide it from Daoyu. I'm indeed a middle grade 2 talisman master." Li Jianfeng was a little excited. He stood up and bowed. In the northern part of the mountain, humans and demons live together. The Netherworld sect colludes with the demons to suppress human cultivators. The Guiyuan sword sect wants to strengthen the human race, but they are not strong enough. I respectfully invite you to join the Guiyuan sword sect and strengthen the human race together." Wang Daoyuan sneered in his heart. "You really think that I'm a rookie who has never seen the world? You're all 1,000-year-old foxes, why are you acting with me? However, what happened to sword cultivators being straightforward? What kind of weirdos are the sword cultivators of the Guiyuan sword sect? Not only do they open brothels, but they also learn to use racial justice to kidnap people?" Although he despised Li Jianfeng in his heart, he still pretended to be touched and said, "I admire the Guiyuan sword sect's heart to strengthen the human race. However, what I need is only the yin-yang purple jade. The other things are just fleeting clouds to me. I really don't want to be tied down by the sect, so please forgive me, Daoyu. However, since the young sect master has come personally, I can't not express anything. From now on, the pills in my shop will be sold to the Guiyuan sword sect at 80% price. In addition, I can also refine pills for your sect at a low price. What do you think, Daoyu?" Li Jianfeng thought for a long time before sighing and saying, "It's a pity that I can't work with you. Since that's the case, I'll have to trouble you to refine pills for my Guiyuan sword sect." My Guiyuan sword sect can't let you suffer a loss. Every time you refine a cauldron of pills, we will pay Dao Yu 50 spirit stones. As long as there are more than 4 pills in a cauldron, we will buy them according to the market price. In addition, since you are also proficient in talismans, I hope you can sell some talismans to us. The talisman paper and ink will be provided by us. We will pay you 30 spirit stones for each middle grade level 2 talisman. What do you think, sir? This treatment was not bad. With Wang Daoyuan's skills, he could refine middle grade level 2 pills 6 times a day at most. Even if the success rate was only 40%, he could still earn more than 200 spirit stones a day. It was easy to earn tens of thousands of spirit stones a year. This was also the reason why his spiritual sense was high. Ordinary second-grade alchemists could only refine 3 cauldrons a day. If he refined more, his spiritual sense would be exhausted and it would seriously affect the success rate. Of course, most alchemists couldn't refine pills every day because they didn't have enough spirit herbs. Wang Daoyuan replied, "This treatment is a bit too generous. I naturally have no objections." Afterwards, the two of them carefully discussed the details of their cooperation. In the end, they reached an agreement. Wang Daoyuan would refine a cauldron of rejuvenation pills and a cauldron of condensing pills for the Guiyuan sword sect every day. In addition, he would provide 3 middle-grade level 2 talismans to the Guiyuan sword sect every day. The price would be according to the previously agreed upon price. The array master that Li Jianfeng brought over also quickly finished repairing the shop's defensive array. The two of them bid farewell and left. Wang Daoyuan checked the defensive array to see if this array master had left any backup plans, such as surveillance, eavesdropping, or the like. Through his method of inscribing array patterns, Wang Daoyuan confirmed that this array master should have just entered the second grade and his technique was rusty. However, he didn't leave any backup plans. Moreover, leaving a backup plan on the shop's defensive array was too easy to be discovered. The defensive array of each shop in the market was related to the defensive array of the entire market. Leaving a backup plan on the shop's defensive array might affect the operation of the entire defensive array and be easily discovered by the controller of the defensive array. At that time, when the upper echelons of the market investigated, the person who left a backup plan would definitely have to bear the consequences. On the surface, Wang Daoyuan was only a middle-grade level 2 alchemist, but the Guiyuan sword sect sent the young sect master to personally recruit him. It could be seen how great the demand for alchemists was on the Guiyuan sword sect side. Since the Guiyuan sword sect was in the pill business, they definitely had their own alchemists. Under such circumstances, they could still provide him with the spirit herbs needed for 2 cauldrons of pills a day. And the Guiyuan sword sect's businesses on the surface couldn't provide so many spirit herbs. Even the Green Willow region couldn't provide a stable supply of spirit herbs for the Guiyuan sword sect. After all, there was no place to grow spirit herbs in the Green Willow region. Relying on rogue cultivators to gather spirit herbs was simply a matter of luck. It could be seen that the Guiyuan sword sect definitely had a hidden source of spirit herbs. Chapter 217. Judging from the fact that the main ingredient needed for the core condensing pill needed 200 years to mature, this secret source of spirit herbs had been preparing for 200 years. Moreover, there was definitely a lot of spirit fields. The spirit herbs produced by the Wang family's dozens of mu of spirit fields weren't even enough for the family's pill refiners. The Guiyuan sword sect made him refine 2 cauldrons of pills a day. Coupled with their own pill refiners, their daily workload wouldn't be less than his. Even though the Guiyuan sword sect only had 1 rank 2 pill refiner like him, refining 2 cauldrons of rank 2 pills a day. They had to ensure that the 2 pill refiners were able to refine pills like this and that there was an endless supply of spirit herbs. Since they were in a hurry to recruit pill refiners, it meant that there was a lot of spirit herbs produced. The existing pill refiners couldn't use them all, and it might cause a backlog of spirit herbs. From the looks of it, the Beiyuan sword sect source of spirit herbs had at least 1,000 mu of rank 2 spirit fields. In addition, they had to consider rank 1 spirit herbs. As long as there were rank 2 spirit fields, there would definitely be more rank 1 spirit fields in the surrounding area. Conservatively speaking, this source of spirit herbs had at least 2,000 mu of rank 1 spirit fields. The Zhao royal family had been overthrown for 300 years, but they still had such a foundation. This family was truly rich. After that, the Beiyuan sword sect would send someone to deliver the spirit herbs, talisman paper, and spirit ink needed for the month at the beginning of every month. At the end of the month, they would send someone to deliver the reward and take away the pills and talismans. With Wang Daoyuan's true skill, he could refine 7 to 8 pills of mid and low-grade grade 2 pills in one cauldron. His success rate for mid-grade grade 2 talismans was also above 60%. However, in order to not expose his skill and not let the Beiyuan sword sect obtain too many resources, he only handed over the pills and talismans according to the success rate of 40% each time. The other pills were sold in the shop and the talismans were kept for self-defense. 3 months later, Fu Qing came to Wang Daoyuan's shop again with an early-stage foundation establishment wandering cultivator. Before Wang Daoyuan could speak, Fu Qing introduced, "Senior Huang, I'd like to introduce you to a business deal. This Senior Zhou wants to sell a few spirit herbs. I thought that since Senior Huang has opened a medicinal pill store, you should be able to purchase spiritual herbs, so I brought Senior Zhou here." Wang Daoyuan cupped his hands and said, "I am Wang Daoyuan. I wonder what kind of spirit medicine Daoyu is selling." The cultivator surnamed Zhou took out 5 to 6 spirit medicines from his storage bag and placed them on the counter of the shop, asking, "Daoyu Huang, how much can you sell these spirit medicines for?" These few stalks of spirit herbs were all dried goods, not a single one was alive. These spiritual herbs were all of the same type, known as the golden thread grass. The leaves were like threads, golden in color. The golden silk grass was a level 2 upper grade spirit medicine, and it was one of the supplementary ingredients to concoct the level 3 meridian shielding pill. When Wang Daoyuan was building his foundation, if he didn't have the protection of the meridian shielding pill and took 2 foundation establishment pills at the same time, it was very likely that his meridians would be damaged. Taking the meridian shielding pill when breaking through a realm or using a powerful spell could prevent the damage to the meridians. The meridian shielding pill was a level 3 lower grade spirit medicine. It was one of the easiest level 3 spirit medicine to concoct. It was very suitable for a level 2 upper grade pill master like Wang Daoyuan to try concocting a level 3 spirit medicine. However, this meridian shielding pill's spirit medicine was relatively rare. Wang Daoyuan had never seen it before. Now that he came across a few stalks, he naturally couldn't let them go. He carefully examined the stalks of golden thread grass. Unfortunately there were no seeds left, otherwise he could plant them in the space of the spirit bead. Feeling a bit disappointed, he offered a price, 100 spirit stones for 1 stalk, 7 stalks of golden thread grass for 700 spirit stones. "What do you think, Daoyu?" The cultivator surnamed Zhou was very satisfied with this price, saying, "Daoyu Huang, this price is quite reasonable, let's go with this price." Wang Daoyuan took out 700 low-grade spirit stones and gave them to the cultivator surnamed Zhou, putting away the golden thread grass. The cultivator surnamed Zhou bought a few soul-condensing pills and rejuvenation pills. Wang Daoyuan gave him a 10% discount. After taking the pills, the cultivator surnamed Zhou didn't leave, instead his eyes swept over the surroundings. Wang Daoyuan took out 10 spirit stones and gave them to Fu Qing, saying, "I want to buy a detailed map of the North Mountain, help me ask around, as long as you can find it, you won't be short of benefits. Remember, the bigger the map area, the more detailed the better." Fu Cheng took the spirit stones and eagerly ran out. Wang Daoyuan closed the shop door, opened the defensive formation and asked, "Dao Yuzhou, if you have anything to say, just say it." The cultivator surnamed Zhou took out a tree branch that was 10 feet long and as thick as an arm from his storage bag. Although the branch was already dried up, the strong spirit energy fluctuation on it showed that it was a branch of a level 2 upper-grade spirit wood. Wang Daoyuan picked up the branch, only to feel that it was heavy in his hand. The weight of this tree trunk wasn't light. The wood part of this branch wasn't anything special, although it was very heavy. Its strength wasn't high, so it couldn't be considered a good refining material. However, the bark was very extraordinary, blood red in color and extremely tough. It could be used to make level 2 upper-grade talisman papers. This was only a branch. If it was the bark of the trunk, it could be used to make level 3 lower-grade talisman papers. This branch might have been cut off from the blood dragon wood, a 3rd-grade spirit wood. If it was really blood dragon wood, then its value would be very high. The bark of blood dragon wood could be used to make level 3 talisman papers, and the branch could be used to make level 3 spirit charcoal. The only pity was that this blood dragon wood had already withered. If it was still alive, it could still be planted near the life spirit fire in the spirit pearl space. He was still carefully observing the branch when the cultivator surnamed Zhou became a bit anxious and asked, "Dao Yu Huang, how much is this branch worth?" Wang Daoyuan smiled. Dao Yu Zhou should also know what this branch is, or else he wouldn't have taken it out in the end. If Dao Yu Huang chopped the trunk, it should be worth 2,000 to 3,000 spirit stones, but this branch isn't even worth 100 spirit stones. If it was a live branch, it wouldn't be a big deal to sell it to a clan or sect for 10,000 spirit stones. The cultivator surnamed Zhou smiled. Dao Yu Huang is really knowledgeable. This branch of blood dragon wood isn't worth much, but the whole blood dragon wood is very valuable. Wang Daoyuan was a bit puzzled and asked, "Since Dao Yu Zhou knows what this is, then why did you bring it to me to sell?" The cultivator surnamed Zhou replied, "When I was picking herbs in Mount Huiyan, I happened to find a small valley. That valley seemed to be the medicine garden of a senior expert. There were some traces of the formation core, but the formation had been completely destroyed, so it should have been there a long time ago. The golden silk grass and this blood dragon wood branch were all obtained from there. After I entered the small valley, I first found the golden silk grass at the edge of the valley. As I continued to go deeper, I found a blood dragon wood. I originally wanted to cut off all the branches and leaves of the blood dragon wood, then dig up the trunk by the roots. I didn't expect that the formation in the valley had been destroyed, and the entire valley had been occupied by demonic beasts. On top of that blood dragon wood, there was a 2nd-rank mid-grade python. The blood dragon wood had many branches and leaves, so I didn't see the python hiding inside. When I cut off the branch, I alarmed the python and was ambushed by it, almost dying in that valley. I hid in a secluded place and recuperated for a few months. After my injuries were healed, I returned to Mount Huiyan Market. This time, I came to find Dao Yu to inquire about him carefully. Dao Yu Huang is also a loose cultivator and doesn't have any background here. Previously, he was bullied by the Gui Yuan sword sect and had no choice but to agree to refine pills for them. However, Dao Yu Huang is not weak and can defeat sword cultivators of the same level from the Gui Yuan sword sect. I, Zhou Xian, would like to invite Dao Yu Huang to explore that valley together. You and I will split everything we find. What does Dao Yu Huang think? Chapter 218. Wang Daoyuan pondered for a moment and replied, "I'm naturally very happy to earn some extra money. However, the danger isn't small either. With the two of us, even if we can win against a mid-grade rank 2 demon beast, the commotion won't be small either. There are mid-grade rank 2 demon beasts near the edge of the valley, so it's not strange for there to be high-grade rank 2 demon beasts inside. If we alarm them, I'm afraid we won't be able to keep our lives. Zhou Xian smiled and said, I won't hide it from Dao Yu. I've cultivated a powerful spell that can quickly kill demon beasts. However, the casting speed is relatively slow. I'm the only one dealing with the demon beast, so I don't have a chance to use it. As long as Dao Yu can delay the giant python for 20 breaths of time, I can kill it in one blow. How about we leave after taking the blood dragon wood? Wang Daoyuan pondered for a long time and nodded. Then we'll do as Dao Yu said. Delaying the giant python for 20 breaths of time shouldn't be a problem. When does Dao Yu plan to go? Zhou Xian pondered for a moment and said, I still need to prepare some things. How about we leave in half a month? Wang Daoyuan replied, naturally, no problem. I can go at any time. After half a month, I'll continue to wait here for Dao Yu. The two exchanged some pleasantries and Zhou Xian bid farewell and left. The next day, Fu Cheng brought an old late-stage qi condensation cultivator to Huang clan's medicinal shop. Seeing Wang Daoyuan, Fu Cheng bowed and said, Senior Huang, this is Dao Yu Jiang. He has an ancestral map for sale. Unfortunately, because the map is too big, he hasn't been able to sell it. He's also not willing to divide the map and sell it piece by piece. You said that the bigger and more detailed the map, the better, so I brought him here. Wang Daoyuan was interested. What kind of map could be so big that it couldn't be sold? He asked with interest, how big is the map that it can't be sold? Take it out and let me see. As long as it's good, I'll definitely buy it. The cultivator surnamed Jiang bowed and said, Senior Huang, this shop is too small. I'm afraid the map won't fit. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, then let's go to the backyard. The backyard has an area of more than 2 acres. It should be enough, right? The cultivator surnamed Jiang nodded repeatedly and said, it's enough, it's enough. The three of them arrived at the backyard, and the cultivator surnamed Jiang took out a pile of things from his storage bag. The pile seemed to be made of some kind of animal skin. It was about 1 zhang in length and width, and 5 to 6 feet in height. With Fu Cheng's help, the cultivator surnamed Jiang spread out the pile of animal skins, covering nearly half an acre of land. It was a complete piece of animal skin with drawings and annotations all over it. With Wang Daoyuan's divine sense, he could only memorize a square foot of content after observing for 20 to 30 breaths of time. Wang Daoyuan exclaimed in admiration, Dao Yu Jiang, this map of yours is really good. I really don't know what kind of person could make such a detailed map. Seeing that Wang Daoyuan was interested in the map, the cultivator surnamed Jiang was overjoyed. He said, when I was young, I heard from my elders that my family's ancestors were once a great power. This map was made by my family's ancestors. I don't know how many generations they spent to make it. Unfortunately, our family declined more than 1,000 years ago. Until now, there hasn't been a foundation establishment cultivator in our family for several generations. The things left behind by our ancestors that can be sold have already been exchanged for spirit stones. Only this map remains unsold. Dao Yu Jiang is willing to buy a part of it, but I'm not willing to damage my family's heirloom, so I haven't been able to sell it. If Senior is willing, I only hope that Senior can preserve this map in its entirety. That way, I'll be able to face my ancestors. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, no problem. I'm very satisfied with this map. I'll definitely preserve it in its entirety. How many spirit stones are you selling this map for? Name a price. With Fu Cheng here, the cultivator surnamed Jiang didn't dare to name a price. He was afraid that the fact that he had a large number of spirit stones on him would be leaked. Wang Daoyuan handed Fu Cheng 20 spirit stones and said, you did well this time. These 20 spirit stones are your reward. Fu Cheng took the spirit stones and left with 1,000 thanks. Only now did the cultivator surnamed Jiang dare to name a price. I want to sell this map for 2,000 spirit stones. If Senior thinks the price is too high, we can still discuss it. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, for such a good map, 2,000 spirit stones is more than worth it. Since your family's ancestors worked hard for it, 2,000 spirit stones it is. After he said that, Wang Daoyuan took out 20 mid-grade spirit stones and gave them to the cultivator surnamed Jiang. As the cultivator surnamed Jiang received the spirit stones, his eyes became moist. He carefully folded the map and gave it to Wang Daoyuan. Then, he respectfully bid farewell and left. Wang Daoyuan stored the map in the space of the spirit bead. This map weighed around 500 to 600 pounds and was made with animal skins. Ordinary storage bags wouldn't be able to hold it. It was also very inconvenient to carry such a large map with him when he went out. It was also very strenuous to take out the map and look at it. Moreover, there was too much information on this map and it wasn't suitable to be recorded in jade slips or animal skins. Under normal circumstances, a jade slip or an animal skin could only record around 10,000 words. There were at least hundreds of thousands of words on this map, and there were also pictures. It would take nearly 100 jade slips to record it. Who would spend so much effort for such a map? This map was indeed not suitable for ordinary people. However, it was very suitable for Wang Daoyuan. With the space of the spirit bead and his clone, if he wanted to check the map, he could just let his clone do it. Coupled with the 40 times faster flow of time in the space, he didn't have to worry about checking slowly. As soon as the map was stored in the space of the spirit bead, Wang Daoyuan ordered his clone, Wuxia, to check it. At first glance, he knew why the map was so large. The map covered a large area, not only covering half of the Wild Goose Mountain range, but also the entire northern mountain region, as well as many other regions north of the Thousand River. The entire Qingli County was included in the map. The map spanned 100,000 li from north to south and 50,000 li from east to west. The map marked the location of every second-grade spirit vein and above, as well as the precious items in each area. In addition, it also recorded the history of the names of some areas. The only shortcoming was that the map only had a brief description of the sky-chopping mountain range. There was no mention of the eastern region of the sky-chopping mountain range. It seems the Jiang clan's ancestral power isn't small. The things recorded on the map are nothing to a great power, not worth investigating. With so much information on the map, the Jiang clan's ancestral intelligence network must have covered these regions. The brief description of the sky-chopping mountain range meant the Jiang clan didn't extend their reach into the sky-chopping mountain range. Wuxia spent a lot of effort and finally found a place on the map called Hell Valley. 5,000 years ago, there was a great flood that flattened the Hell Valley. Hell Valley's name was never mentioned again. Hell Valley's location was 20,000 li west of the Wild Goose Gathering Market, and 10,000 li north of the Underworld sect. There was a river that flowed through this place. The river's water contained dense Yin energy, hence the name Profound Yin River. Now, Profound Yin River was a gathering place for cultivators who played with corpses. Now that he knew the target's location, he could go straight to Profound Yin River after getting the dragon blood wood. The days of being watched by the Origin Sword sect in the market had finally come to an end. Chapter 219. The appointed day arrived in the blink of an eye. Zhou Xian arrived at Huang's elixir shop. Wang Daoyuan led him into the shop and asked, "Zhou Daoyu, are you ready?" Zhou Xian smiled and said, "Everything is ready. We can set off at any time." Wang Daoyuan changed into the attire of a loose cultivator and left the shop with Zhou Xian. The small valley that Zhou Xian found was more than 6,000 li west of Guiyuan Market. Guiyuan Sword sect had people watching the shop. In order to avoid the eyes of Guiyuan Sword sect, they decided to go south and leave Guiyan Market. They first went to the south of the mountain, then went west. After bypassing Beiyuan sword sect, they went over Huiyan Mountain and returned to the north of the mountain. The people of Beiyuan sword sect did not dare to go to the south of the mountain casually. This route could shake off Beiyuan sword sect's pursuit. Moreover, they could avoid the area occupied by the Red-Beard bandits. Both of them were dressed in black and wore veils and bamboo hats. After blending into the crowd of people in the market, it was difficult to find them. After leaving the market, they immediately flew south on their swords. Soon, they arrived at Jinyan City. In order to avoid being followed, they directly entered Jinyan City. Not long after, they left the city through the south gate and went west along the south foot of Huiyan Mountain. The journey was very smooth. After traveling 6,000 li, they went north and crossed Huiyan Mountain. This place was still part of Huiyan Mountain's remnant vein. It was still about 4,000 li away from the main vein. Outside of the main vein, there were generally no third-rank monsters. Most second-rank monsters were not a big threat to foundation-building cultivators. They no longer hid their tracks and flew north on their swords. When flying over the territories of monsters, the monsters were probably used to it. As long as they did not fly too low and did not release pressure to provoke them, they did not care. Zhou Xian led the way in front. When they were only a few dozen li away from the north of the mountain, they arrived at a small valley that was 2 to 3 li long and 7 to 8 zhang wide. Zhou Xian stopped here. Wang Daoyuan asked, "Daoyu Zhou, there is no spirit vein here. How can there be blood dragon wood?" Zhou Xian smiled and said, "If that valley was so easy to find, who knows how many years have passed? Would we have a chance to get the good things inside?" After saying that, he controlled his flying sword and landed on the ground. Wang Daoyuan followed closely behind and landed on the ground. He saw Zhou Xian walk towards the western cliff in the middle of the small valley. There did not seem to be anything out of the ordinary here. As they got closer, Wang Daoyuan felt that the concentration of spiritual qi here had increased. He used his divine sense to explore the rock wall, only to discover that there was a tiny crack in the rock wall, from which spiritual power was constantly pouring out. His divine sense probed behind the crack, only to discover that there was a cave behind it. There was also a broken array formation in the cave. With his proficiency in formations, it was easy for him to see that this was a formation that blocked the flow of spirit qi. It was used to prevent the spirit qi from flowing out of the cave. If it were not for the fact that the formation was somewhat damaged, causing the spiritual qi to leak out, Zhou Xian would not have discovered this valley. Zhou Xian walked to the front of the rock wall and placed his hand on a protruding rock beside the crack. He used all his strength to twist it. The rocks beside the crack slowly opened, revealing the cave behind it. The cave was about 10 feet high and 3 feet wide. It was quite spacious. Zhou Xian smiled and said, "The place where I found the golden silk grass and the blood dragon wood was behind this cave." After saying that, he walked into the cave first. Wang Daoyuan stuck 2 middle-grade second-tier earth armor talismans on his body and followed behind, walking in. After entering the cave, Zhou Xian pressed on a rock inside the cave, and the rock at the entrance of the cave slowly closed. They walked along the inside of the cave. After walking for about 1 mile, their eyes suddenly opened up. This was a large underground cave. The inside of the cave was covered with dense vegetation. One could not see the end of it at a glance. On the surrounding rock walls, there were fist-sized luminous pearls. There were small holes above the cave, and light penetrated through each small hole. Wang Daoyuan used his divine sense to explore a small hole, only to discover that there was a magic mirror in the cave. The grade was not high, only a low-grade first stage. This magic mirror could adjust its angle according to the position of the sun and the moon, reflecting the sunlight and moonlight into the cave. Although the grade of this magic mirror was low, it was not simple. With these magic mirrors and luminous pearls, this underground cave was not dark at all. There was also a high-grade second-stage spirit vein in the cave. Wang Daoyuan followed Zhou Xian out of the cave and into the cave. After careful observation, he discovered that there were dense array patterns on the surrounding rock walls. These array patterns should be a middle-grade second-stage array. The array patterns were relatively rough and had lost their function. This cave's owner's attainments in array formations had barely reached the mid-grade of the second level. This array should be able to block the leakage of spiritual energy, as well as have a defensive function. This cave was a bit like a medicine garden. The python in the cave should have crawled in through the small hole above the cave after the array had lost its effect. He quickly discovered a few stalks of golden silk grass on the ground. He immediately pulled them out and stored them in the spirit pearl space. The surrounding vegetation was mostly of first stage and did not have much value. Wang Daoyuan followed Zhou Xian's footsteps and carefully walked through the dense vegetation. They did not dare to extend their divine senses too far to avoid disturbing the second-stage demonic beast and causing a big commotion. The two of them only dared to use their divine senses to explore an area of about 200 feet. After going more than 1,000 feet deep, Wang Daoyuan saw a blood-red tree 20 feet away through the gaps in the vegetation. This blood dragon tree was more than 200 feet tall and had a thick trunk that required two people to wrap their arms around. Wang Daoyuan did not see where the python was. In order to avoid being detected by the middle-grade second-stage python, the two of them used the breath-concealing technique to restrain their aura and suppress their spiritual energy fluctuations. Zhou Xian did not dare to speak again. He transmitted his voice, "Huang Daoyu, the python is hiding on the blood dragon tree. You go and lure it out. I will prepare a spell here. As long as you lure that beast away from the blood dragon tree, you will be able to hold on for 20 breaths of time to prevent my spell from damaging the tree. Take down the python and dig out the blood dragon tree. Then, we will leave this place." Wang Daoyuan also replied, "No problem." After saying that, he took out the inky gold sword from the space in the spiritual pearl and slowly moved forward. After more than 50 breaths of time, Wang Daoyuan moved to the vicinity of the blood dragon tree. He scanned the surroundings with his divine sense and did not find any demonic beasts. It seemed that the python's hiding ability was not weak. He did not let down his guard. Instead, he paid more attention to the python. He raised the inky gold sword and cut off a branch as thick as an arm from the blood dragon tree. He stored it in the spiritual pearl and handed it over to his doppelganger. His doppelganger cut off a small branch as thick as a finger and inserted it near the spiritual fire of life. Although the blood dragon tree could not be grown by cutting, with the vigorous vitality provided by the spiritual fire of life, there might be hope. Wang Daoyuan's divine sense was constantly monitoring the surrounding area of 300 feet. He did not want to be killed by the python in one strike. Suddenly, a blood-red python's head jumped out from the branches. It opened its bloody mouth and bit toward him. He waved the inky gold sword in his hand and chopped the side of the python's head. He also activated the swift art under his feet. Borrowing the force of the collision between the long sword and the python's head, he quickly flew to the right and narrowly avoided the python's attack. The inky gold sword was very sharp. The sword left a half-foot-long wound on the python's head. At this time, Wang Daoyuan felt that there was a violent fluctuation of spiritual power on Zhou Xian's side. He should be preparing a magic spell. Seeing that its attack had missed and that its head had been cut by the sword, the python would not give up. It came down from the blood dragon tree and crawled toward Wang Daoyuan. The python's body was blood-red. On both sides of its back, there were clusters of obvious light-colored cloud patterns. Wang Daoyuan knew this python. It was called the blood-red cloud-patterned python. The highest level it could cultivate to was the second rank upper grade. Chapter 220. The python was only 2 to 3 meters long and as thick as an adult's waist. Other demonic beasts of the first rank were at least 4 to 5 meters long. This python was quite small. Wang Daoyuan could not remember the blood cloud python's innate ability. It was probably to suck blood to strengthen its body. This kind of innate ability did not have much lethality, and it was only a second-rank demonic beast. If he did not want to expose his strength, he would have finished it off in a few moves. He could not use his family's magic, super powerful magic, or the 5-dragon soul-chasing whip. It would be a waste to use talismans. He could only use the inky gold sword to fight against the python. The blood cloud python's body was very strong. The inky gold sword was so sharp, but the wound was not even half an inch deep. The wound completely enraged it. It chased after Wang Daoyuan closely. It would not give up until it killed Wang Daoyuan. There were snake-type demonic beasts that were very fast, but most of the python-type demonic beasts were not known for their speed. Wang Daoyuan used the swift art with all his strength. The blood cloud python could not catch up with him at all. His goal was to stall the python, so he would not leave it too far behind. When the python pounced forward, he sped up and widened the distance between them. When the distance between them increased, he slowed down and maintained a distance of more than 30 meters from the python. When the python wanted to give up, he turned around and threw a few spells like the golden saber technique to enrage it. The blood cloud python was flustered and exasperated. It used all its strength and jumped more than 60 meters away. This gave Wang Daoyuan a fright, and he almost used cloud mist escape. He calmed down and used the earth escape technique to escape into the ground. Anyway, he only needed to stall for 20 seconds. That time was almost up. The python was already more than 300 meters away from the blood dragon wood. He did not have to worry about the wood being hit. Just as it was about to swallow the tiny human, he suddenly disappeared. At this time, Wang Daoyuan was more than 60 meters underground. At this depth, Foundation establishment cultivators with strong divine senses could still detect him with their divine senses. Most of the demonic beasts' divine senses were far inferior to human cultivators of the same level, so they were unable to detect them. The python didn't sense Wang Daoyuan's aura anywhere else, so it angrily whipped the place where Wang Daoyuan disappeared with its tail. The soil and stones on the ground were sent flying in all directions, and a pit more than 10 feet deep was created on the ground. After Wang Daoyuan entered the ground, he immediately headed towards Zhou Xian. One must not have the intention to harm others, but one must always be on guard against others. He did not return to the ground immediately. Instead, he used his spiritual perception to observe Zhou Xian and the red blood cloud striped python. This was to prevent Zhou Xian from casting the spell that he had prepared for 20 breaths of time on him. Fortunately, Zhou Xian did not attack him. Instead, he directed the spell at the blood cloud striped python. A ball of red and yellow spiritual energy was condensed in his hands. Then, he shot the ball of spiritual energy into the air. Flaming stones flew out of the spiritual power ball and hit the red cloud python under the control of his divine sense. The flaming stones flew at an extremely fast speed. They were not inferior to the earth divine thunder. The red blood cloud striped python was known for its physical strength. In terms of speed, it was not strong. It could not dodge such a fast attack. The first flaming rock hit the blood-red cloud-striped python directly. Wang Daoyuan's spiritual perception had been paying attention to the man and the python. Naturally, he also detected the flaming stones. The power of this one stone was comparable to 3 of his earth divine thunders. Of course, If Zhou Xian were to face him head-on, he would not have the chance to finish accumulating power. He would be blasted into pieces by the Earth Divine Thunder. The Crimson Cloud Python's body was ridiculously strong. A flaming flying stone hit its waist. Although it was hit by the flaming stones, it did not suffer any fatal injuries. This was only the first flaming stone. There were still 5 more. The next 5 flaming stones were all aimed at the python's head. The python's waist was severely injured. It could not dodge at all. The 5 flaming flying stones landed steadily on the python's head. This was equivalent to 15 Earth Divine Thunders hitting the same place. This power was not something a rank 2 demonic beast could withstand. No matter how strong the red blood cloud-striped python's body was, it could not withstand this attack. The remaining power of the flaming stones disappeared along with the python's head. A snake could not do without a head. The python's head was blown up by the flaming stones. No matter how strong it was, it could not do anything. After struggling for a while, the python's body fell to the ground powerlessly. Zhou Xian's spiritual power ball was completely exhausted. He ate a spiritual recovery pill and sat down to recover his spiritual power. When Wang Daoyuan came out from the ground, Zhou Xian was shocked. He was worried that Wang Daoyuan would sneak attack him. Wang Daoyuan smiled and said, "Dao Yuzhou, don't panic. I am not a person who will kill a donkey after it has outlived its usefulness. Don't worry. As long as Dao Yu does not attack me, I will not attack Dao Yu." Then, he picked up the black gold sword and walked towards the blood dragon wood. He was not sure if there were any demonic beasts lying in ambush near the blood dragon wood. Naturally, he would not walk over easily. When he was about 10 feet away from the blood dragon wood, he controlled the flying sword to float in the air. Black sword chi flew out from the black gold sword and condensed into flying sword phantoms. It was the innumerable sword art that he seized from Wu Yi. He controlled the sword chi to attack the blood dragon wood and cut off all the branches. He put all the branches into the spiritual pearl space. Then, he used the earth movement art to shake the earth and rocks around the roots of the blood dragon wood. When the earth and rocks were separated from the roots, he used the earth wall art to condense an earth and rock pillar to push the blood dragon wood out from the ground. He put the blood dragon wood into a spirit beast pouch. The blood dragon wood was heavy and exceeded the load limit of an ordinary storage pouch. Wang Daoyuan walked towards Zhou Xian and said, "To be honest, I know a cultivator from a clan. If I sell this blood dragon wood to him, should be able to earn a lot of spirit stones. So, I'll give Dao Yu some spirit stones. How about you let me have this blood dragon wood?" Zhou Xian said, "Since Dao Yu has connections, there's no harm in letting Dao Yu have it." Wang Daoyuan took out 30 mid-grade spirit stones and said, "I'll compensate Dao Yu with 3,000 spirit stones. What do you think of this?" Zhou Xian was overjoyed. If he sold this blood dragon wood to the forces of Shanbei, he could sell it for 5,000 spirit stones at most. If the two of them divided it equally, he would not get 3,000 spirit stones. Now, Wang Daoyuan was giving him 3,000 spirit stones. Naturally, he had no objections. Wang Daoyuan handed him 30 mid-grade spirit stones, which he gladly accepted. The two of them stayed in the underground cave for an hour until Zhou Xian's spirit chi was almost recovered. Then, they walked out of the underground cave. During this time, no other demonic beasts came. Wang Daoyuan obtained the urgently needed blood dragon wood, and Zhou Xian obtained 30 mid-grade spirit stones. The two of them each got what they wanted. Zhou Xian led the way out of the cave and returned to the small valley outside. Just as he left the cave, a giant sword shadow that was 20 to 30 feet long fell from the sky. The giant sword shadow was also extremely fast. After a big battle, Zhou Xian's spirit chi had recovered, and his mind was at its most relaxed state. This sword came so fast that he could not react at all. He was directly cut in half by this sword. Wang Daoyuan was also frightened by this sword and retreated into the cave, not daring to show his head. Wang Daoyuan also recognized this move. It was the sky-cleaving sword, the inheritance of the Guiyuan sword sect. He could also use the sky-cleaving sword, but its power could not be compared to this sword. To be able to use such a powerful sky-cleaving sword, this person was definitely a sword cultivator, and his cultivation was much higher than his. He did not have full confidence in defeating this kind of opponent. Moreover, sword cultivators were much faster than ordinary cultivators of the same level. Even if they could win, it would be difficult to keep the opponent. You're tuning in to the Xiaofan's Wuxia Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.